All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call this meeting to order. And if you please rise, we'll have any special intentions. I know I had some up here. Press the button so I can give you the floor. Councilman Brannigan.
Yes, a neighbor of mine and constituent, Sal and Liz LaMartina, their granddaughter was diagnosed, I think she's 14 or 15, with a brain tumor, and they went in and they got part of it out, and they can't get the whole thing out. So if you guys could pray for her, man, it's a serious deal. A little 14, 15-year-old girl who's a really incredible dancer and gymnast and everything, has really put her back. And on a non-serious note, LSU plays Alabama. We know who I'm pulling for.
Councilman Brennan.
Thank you, Council Chair. Please keep my wife in your prayers, please. She had a knee replacement earlier today, and also the family of Dale Martini, a longtime District 5 resident who passed away on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Mayor.
We also have Mr. Emmett Krupp, who is a 37-year employee of the Recreation Department of the City of Kenner, passed away yesterday morning. We also have our former CFO's mother, Duke McConnell's mother, passed away a couple of days ago. So we do have a former employee's mother and also an employee for many years, along with Duke McConnell, that has been with us for a while. Keep those two families in your prayers, please.
Thank you. Councilwoman McKinney, would you give us a prayer?
Yes, please bow your heads. Lord, thank you for this day and the opportunity to come together to make decisions for our community and work together for the best of Kenner. On this day, please give us direction, fortitude, and grace to deal with the challenges that may lay ahead. Provide us with the ability to listen to others with empathy and understanding. Jesus, may we seek your guidance and work steadfastly in your name. Amen.
Councilman Brennan, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum this evening. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Is there any resolutions, motions, or other items from the floor this evening?
None.
Under the consent agenda, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the council meeting of October 19, 2018. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 2129-18, the City of Kenner District 1 to hold a public gathering on November 16, 2018 from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the purpose of a senior Thanksgiving luncheon at Buddy Lawson Gymnasium, property being owned by the City of Kenner. Item 4 is correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Just a couple of things. We actually had a code sweep again in your district, Councilman Mike Seguilla's district, with your assistance from your office. We were able to do the streets of Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, and Kentucky from 21st Street to West Napoleon. That is in Councilman Seguilla's district. We had 67 violations. They range from addresses being required, abandoned vehicles, to high grass, you name it, rodents, vehicle litter, repair, or demos need to be done, which wound up with 43 warning violations. That, again, is the hard work of our men and ladies of the code department, along with the Assistant Director, Molly McGinnis, and the Director, James Mohammed, doing their job in keeping our city free of blight and tackling the blight throughout the City of Kenner. So again, Councilman Seguilla, I appreciate your assistance in that. I think on Facebook we may have gotten that wrong and gave credit to another district. You had told me something about that, so just for the record, that was District 2, Mike Seguilla's district. On November the 8th, we will have at 10 o'clock in the morning our annual Veterans Day celebration. It will be in Veterans Park. We will probably have it under the canopy in Veterans Park just to avoid any type of bad weather and also give some shade to everyone who attends it. So it'll be right to our left of this building that we're in right now, and that is on November 8th. Everyone is invited. Obviously, the council has been notified on that, along with the chief of police, at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to turn it over, if you don't mind, Councilman, to Mr. Mike Entz. He is here to introduce representatives that we have from the Delgado Small Business Center. That is something that Mike Entz has been working on, along with my office, making sure that we work with this group. They are here to give a presentation, a short presentation, Councilman, if you don't mind.
No.
And Mike Entz will do the intro and give you a heads up on it. Thank y'all.
Thank you. So I don't think I could be any more excited about this project. We now have the opportunity to pretty much have a small business development center in Rivertown for all businesses, not just businesses in Rivertown. So I have Khalid Gross from Delgado Small Business Development Center. Y'all may have heard of the 10,000 Small Businesses program that's sponsored by Goldman Sachs. So all of our businesses are now going to have the ability to get one-on-one consultation from Delgado Small Business Development Center, as well as technical assistance, startup entrepreneurship, as well as getting people registered as vendors. As of course everybody knows, the airport expansion. So we could not be any more excited about this. We're actually using past CDBG funds, which is what you see on item 9C. We have also included this in our 2019 action plan. The amount will actually increase from $20,000 to $25,000. I wish it could be more, but we're only allowed to spend 5% on economic development and CDBG. So with that said, I'm going to let Khalid take the lead on this because he knows a lot more about Delgado than I do. Khalid Gross.
Thank you. Good evening. And I send greetings from Dr. Rainwhite, the Chancellor, and also, excuse me, Orlando Williams, the Vice Chancellor of Workforce Development. So we're really excited to help small businesses in Kenner build their capacity, their financial and organizational capacity. And so we'll be providing training around accounting, marketing, and also project management, also helping them to develop their organizational structure. Because just like Michael Entz said, we want to get them to the point where they're able to create jobs in the community and provide meaningful services to our government agencies and private companies within this area. So with that being said, we would like to thank you, we'd like to extend a thank you to the mayor for allowing us this opportunity to work with the city of Kenner. Our team has provided services to the city of New Orleans. And also, we have provided and will provide services to Cox Communications.
I would like to add that the actual physical location of Delgado Small Business Development Center will be in Rivertown. It'll be above the OMV. So we'll be using existing space. It'll go directly with our economic development specialists within the city of Kenner, as well as Kenner Tourism. So the relationship between the two, I think, is going to go hand in hand and be not just a huge benefit to Rivertown and the existing businesses there and the drive that is starting to happen now that we've seen after all these years of work revitalization within the district, but all businesses throughout Kenner. So we want it to be as open as possible. We're going to advertise. We want everybody to partake in it because we know the biggest driver of job creation is entrepreneurship. Thank you.
All right, don't go off. Councilman Hayes?
We're on TV, so I want to do a little advertisement here because we used to be with the chamber and we were very involved with at one time. I remember the first graduating class. It was really something special. Will this lead to people being able to participate in the program in terms of what you're actually doing at Delgado now? And if it is, what is the size of the companies you're looking at in terms of revenues, employees?
Yeah, so for the program and the services that we'll be offering to small businesses, you just have to be registered as a business. And so the Goldman Sachs program, they have a criteria. We want to get our small businesses prepared so they can participate in that program.
Great.
So we're working with startups and individuals so that they can meet the criteria of small business inclusion programs like the 8A program with SBA, and so that they can move and graduate on to, other programs and work with other government agency programs to build their capacity so they can make, the $500,000 to $1 million annually to grow.
If people are looking tonight, how should they contact you? Are you the appropriate person?
I am the appropriate person. They can email me directly at kgross@dcc.edu.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilwoman McKinney?
I'm excited to hear, can you hear me? I'm excited to hear that you guys are focusing on providing that training. What piqued my interest was project management, because that's what I do. So I'm excited, and I think that is grossly under, people are not familiar with that, and I think that that's really important, an important thing for all businesses and all community members to know. So I applaud you. Thank you.
All right, no other comments or questions? Thank y'all, appreciate it.
And Councilman, one more thing, since Delgado has done their presentation, we do have one other small little greeting that we need to take a minute to recognize that Jefferson Parish Councilman of District 1, a former colleague and also a friend, Ricky Templet, is here. I know he'd like to come up to the podium and just give us a little quick update on what's going on his district, his part of Jefferson Parish, which is on the other side of the river. Councilman?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening with y'all. A little bit of update on what's happening in District 1. Everyone knows about the weather that we had this last night, and Grand Isle took the brunt of it once again. We had about 5 inches of rain hit Grand Isle, as well as, it hasn't been determined if it was a tornado, but they had straight winds that actually destroyed a couple of buildings, turned a couple of trailers over, and flooded actually from the back of the island some homes from the rear. But the good news is that no one was hurt, and that's the most important part. Property we can all repair or fix, but no one was hurt or injured. So, thank you for allowing me to come here. I was in the area, and I just wanted to stop in and say hello and say thank you for allowing me to come up. You have a good meeting.
Any questions? Oh, hey, wait, don't walk off. I might have had a question. You know how that goes.
Wait, am I supposed to say, do y'all have any questions or answers for me? Okay.
I was going to get it, yeah. Get you to start over and give us your address and years at that address. And
Councilman Ricky Templet, City of Gretna, 150 Linda Court.
How many years?
How many years? My whole life born and raised in Jefferson Parish.
Mr. Al, he's got you beat.
Okay.
I don't have anybody have any questions. So again, we appreciate you stopping by, and anytime come by and give us updates. We're always anxious to hear from our parish council members, no matter where they're at.
I'll be glad to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
That will conclude the consent agenda this evening, sir.
All right. Motion by, wait, lost my place. The motion. Motion by Councilman Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. Members, please vote.
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0. Under the public appearance agenda this evening, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. Item 9A is public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,413, an ordinance amending Chapter 7 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kenner regarding the distribution of solicited and unsolicited print matter.
Motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to open the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0.
We are now in a public hearing. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on this matter? See none. Motion by Councilman McKinney, seconded by Councilman Brennan, to close public hearing. Members, please vote.
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0.
Motion by Councilman McKinney, seconded by Councilman Brennan. But I understand we have some amendments.
Yes, sir. I've received a request to amend the matter this evening. I will read the amendment and then I'll entertain a motion in a second. In Section 1, we will change Section 7-172.6 to 7-172.8 and renumber all sections and renumber all internal sections numbers to be consistent. We will amend Section 7-172.1 to state the purpose as following. The purpose of this article is to provide for the protection and promotion of the public health, safety, and welfare by regulating the distribution of unsolicited printed matter, which, when unchecked, negatively impacts the quality of life, safety, and health of neighborhoods, disturbs the peaceful possession of property, facilitates the accumulation of filth, sewage, garbage, refuse, and debris, and contributes to damaging property, including but not limited to sewage and/or drainage backups. We would change the definition of code to be, code shall mean the City of Kenner Department of Inspection and Code Enforcement. We will adding the definition of PMZ as follows. PMZ shall mean the Jefferson Parish Department of Property Maintenance Zoning Quality of Life. In Section 7-172.5A, change the wording of code to the word PMZ. In Section 7-175.5B, changing the word code to PMZ, the word city to parish, and adding at the end of the section the phrase, all is required by Jefferson Parish Code of Ordinances, Section 19-66B. Adding Sections 2 and 3 as follows. Section 2, this ordinance shall not become effective until 45 days after intergovernmental agreement is entered into between the City of Kenner and Parish of Jefferson, which intergovernmental agreement will provide that the Jefferson Parish agrees to provide the following services to the City of Kenner. A, provide the Blight Eradication Community Liaison as an intermediary between Kenner and Jefferson Parish's Department of Property Maintenance, Zoning Quality of Life in order to facilitate the use of Jefferson Parish's Do Not Toss list as provided for in Jefferson Parish Code of Ordinances, Section 19-66. B, allow Kenner residents to sign up on a Jefferson Parish's Do Not Toss list as provided for in Jefferson Parish Code of Ordinances, Section 19-66. C, to provide any other services necessary to facilitate the use of Jefferson Parish's Do Not Toss list by Kenner residents. Section 3 shall read that all ordinances which conflict with this ordinance are repealed.
All right, this time for discussion on the amendments.
If I could have a motion and a second on the amendment.
Motion by Councilman McKinney, seconded by Councilman Brennan.
Thank you.
Members, please vote.
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0 to amend.
Okay. Any discussion on the ordinance or at hand? Okay. McKinney?
Yes, I just wanted to point out that, we put this on a couple months ago, and in this time, we've been working with Jefferson Parish to become to an agreement. So we spoke with the advocate, we spoke with the Times-Picayune, and we wanted to make sure that it was something that they also could get behind and work together with us as partners, because I think this is something that's important for the residents. I've gotten nothing negative on this legislation, only positive, but we want to make sure that we are in alignment with Jefferson Parish and working together with them so the newspapers don't have to go to multiple places to get their lists. So that's why we had to make this amendment, especially Section 2, and the city attorney is in the process of working on the intergovernmental agreements with our councilmen and with the administration of Jefferson Parish as well, to make sure that this is something that we can work together as a team to be successful with. So.
Councilman Brennan?
Thank you. Yes, to echo that, this is good news for everybody with the the trash that hopefully will be minimized. And I just wanted to thank the administration for the assistance, the legal department, and of course, Councilman Impostato's office for his assistance. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, council members, please vote.
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0. Item 9B is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,440, an ordinance approving an amendment to ordinances 1469, 5620, 5789, 10,999, and approving a planned unit development for a church facility located on parcel A-3A1-A1 of Canes Brule subdivision, Kenner Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. Mr. Chairman, I've received a request for a one-meeting deferral tonight.
Motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney for one meeting deferral. Council members, please vote.
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0. Item 9C is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,447, an ordinance amending the 2017-2018 capital budget, authorizing a public hearing and approving amendment number 1 to the Kenner 2017 final action plan of the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program for the Community Development Department.
Motion by Councilman Carroll, seconded by Councilman Segura to open a public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0.
We are now in a public hearing on this matter. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak? Seeing none, motion by Councilman Carroll, seconded by Councilman Segura to close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Motion by Councilman Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Segura to approve. Seeing no comments, please, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. Item 11A is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,441, an ordinance amending ordinance number 11,062 adopted by the City of Kenner, Louisiana on March 17, 2016, entitled Unified Development Code of the City of Kenner, Louisiana, more particularly amending and rezoning lots 1, 2, 7 through 16, 18A, 21A, and 25 through 48, Square 505, Highway Park Subdivision, Kenner Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, from RR1, Single Family Residential, to SI, Special Industrial, and directing and authorizing and empowering the planning director of the City of Kenner to alter and amend the official zoning map of the City of Kenner.
Motion by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilman Wilmot to open a public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
We're now in a public hearing on this matter. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak or make comments, please step forward.
Mr. Chairman, the Planning Department has a brief
I'm sorry.
presentation regarding
Okay, good.
this case. The owner applicant, the property is Mr. A.J. Sotomayor, 1109 Williams Boulevard, Kenner, Louisiana, 70062. The subject lots are located in Square 505 Highway Park Subdivision and generally bound by 21st Street to the north, 20th Street to the south, Colorado Avenue to the east, and California Avenue to the west. The subject lots are all zoned RR1, single-family residential, as is a large majority of the land surrounding the subject site to the north, south, and east. To the north, across 21st Street in Square 464, lots A4 and A5 are undeveloped and zoned single-family residential. The undeveloped lots in Square 504, located to the east that front Colorado Avenue, are also zoned single-family residential. To the west, across California Avenue, in Square 506, 2 of the 3 lots owned by the airport are zoned airport-heavy industrial, while the third lot is zoned single-family residential. An additional lot, AA1, also located in Square 506, is governed by special ordinance, which allows a maritime office and training facility. A large portion of the land in and surrounding Square 505 is undeveloped. The lots that are developed in Square 505, including lots 3 through 6 and lot 23A, are developed with uses that are generally consistent with special industrial zoning. A significant portion of the land surrounding the subject lots on the north, east, and west were acquired by the airport as part of the buyout program and precludes single-family residential uses. Lots that were not purchased by the airport are not subject to those restrictions. Finally, the pattern for progress future land use map identifies Square 505 as well as the surrounding squares as mixed-use non-residential. This future land use designation was targeted primarily to areas categorized as airport buyout land and then other areas surrounding the airport where residential uses are generally not permitted or appropriate. The subject lots are part of one of the recommended airport buyout redevelopment zones, and thus the requested rezoning is consistent with the recommendations of the Pattern for Progress comprehensive plans as it relates to the redevelopment of airport buyout property. Therefore, the Planning Commission did recommend approval. Thank you, and that concludes the plan.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, council members, please vote to close public hearing.
Motion passes 7-0.
Motion by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilman Wilmot. This is the first, but it's certainly not going to be the last, of land that has been bought out from the New Orleans Aviation Board, City of New Orleans noise buyout program some 25 years ago. All of the land that was purchased by the City of New Orleans Aviation Board as part of that noise settlement lawsuit was held by the City of New Orleans, and subsequently, as the law allows, they do not pay property tax. So we've had quite a lot of land in this area that has been off of our tax rolls for a long time, and then the Aviation Board, in conjunction with City of New Orleans, with our Planning Department and City of Kenner discussions, put it out for auction back in 2016, I think it was. And these properties went through the auction, and a lot of them were purchased by investors. In working with these investors over the last couple of years, the goal has been to certainly allow them to take their investment land and turn it into investment businesses, so that, yeah, once they bought it, we would start getting property taxes, but wanted these businesses to flourish and help supplement other revenues the city gets from operating businesses. But also understand that because of the issue that the New Orleans Aviation Board left us with, when they did their buyout program, which was supposed to include all of the residents in this particular subdivision, they shut down the program, so to speak, halfway through, and left over 100 houses still in this area right off of Williams Boulevard. So to get to these properties that they did sell, you have to travel through residential property. And I'm sure everybody who is at home in their house would not like to have the burden of commercial traffic passing in front of their house all hours of the day and night. But that's what we're left with. We have to do something to help turn this property back over to what it now destined to be, and that is commercial property. So in working with the various buyers of the land to ensure that whatever business entity they wanted to put on this piece of land, it would work along with the residential neighborhood that it sits right next to, and they would have to certainly transverse through to get to the corridor, Williams Boulevard, and then their properties. This is the first piece, as I said, that has come up for a rezoning to go from the residential, which is what it was zoned, but according to the buyout, can never be residential again. It can only be commercial. So this business entity that is coming through right now has met with myself quite regularly, as well as the residents in the neighborhood through the required meetings that are up front of any rezoning, and has done his due diligence to assure the residents of the business will not be something that will impact their quality of life. So with that, certainly it went through the planning board and got their approval. And I know from, you know, the residents that live around there that they are certainly also satisfied that at this point, you know, this will not cause them any tremendous impact. So I do anticipate more of these properties going through the same process, and hopefully we'll come to the same results of a business that can now flourish, city can receive its proper revenues, and then, but yet still respect the residential neighborhood that is sandwiched, unfortunately, in between the corridor to get to it. So with that, you know, I'm certainly in favor of it, and I urge all my fellow council members to support it also. All right, seeing no other comments, council members, please vote.
One more vote, please. Motion passes 7-0. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution temporarily suspending Council Rule Number 11 of the Rules of Organization, Business, Order, and Procedure of the Council of the City of Kenner and rescheduling the Kenner City Council agenda deadline to Friday, December 28, 2018 at noon for the council meeting of January 3, 2019.
Motion by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilman Brennan. Before we vote, let me just assure the public's understanding of this. This is a common occurrence when we have holidays that will fall on the date that our normal council agenda cutoff days fall on. So as to not cause too much disruption, we move the cutoff date to an earlier date, in this case, the Friday before. So all we're doing is moving the cutoff time for the administration and council to submit things for the agenda. So with that, council members, please vote.
One more? One more vote?
Red lights, check your lights.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 13B is a resolution temporarily suspending Council Rule Number 7 of the Rules of Organization, Business, Order, and Procedure of the Council of the City of Kenner and rescheduling the Kenner City Council meeting of February 15, 2019 to February 22, 2019, and rescheduling the Kenner City Council meeting of March 15 to March 22, 2019.
Motion by Councilman Segura, seconded by Councilman Brannigan. And again, before we vote on this, I'll give an explanation. As certainly everyone's aware, several months ago, we passed a change of our business order to change the council meetings, and we took the first council meeting of the first Thursday of the month and moved it to 6 o'clock, and then we took the third Thursday council meeting and moved it to the day after, Friday morning at 11 o'clock. Well, in the language of that resolution, we referred to it as the third Friday. But unfortunately, there are 3 months in the year where the first of the month is on a Friday. So then that throws off the scheme of when the third Friday is. And right now, it would fall in between the first Thursday and what would be the third Thursday. So all we're doing is correcting that for these meetings that fall in the window of this 6 month that we're evaluating this format for council meetings, and making sure that everyone understands that the council meetings for those months are going to be on the Friday after the third Thursday, just like we intended it to be. So the dates are right here, and certainly, you know, the notices are going to be sent for these meetings. So just want to make sure no one gets their dates confused and think it was the third Friday, not the fourth Friday for these months. All right, seeing no discussion further, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 13C is a resolution appointing the members of the Alcoholic Beverage Permit Review Committee.
Have a motion by Councilman McKinney, seconded by Councilman Wilmot. Discussion, council members, please vote.
Councilman Carroll.
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg, I did.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council President, but could you ask the Madam Clerk to announce each one of our individual persons so we can share that information with the public?
Yes, sir. Clerk, would you please read who the appointees would be?
Yes, sir. Frank Compagno, at-large Division A. Jerry Godfrey, Senior, at-large Division B. Mark Johnson, District 1. Jerry Matisse, District 2. Edwin C. Hosley, Jr., District 3. Kevin Delahousse, District 4. Ms. Roy Lynn Hewlin for District 5.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Seeing no others, then council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,444. An ordinance authorizing the utilization of state contract number 4400015436 with W.W. Granger Incorporated for the purchase of industrial maintenance, repair, and operational supplies on an as-needed basis in an amount not to exceed $30,000 annually for the Department of Public Works.
Motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. Seeing no discussion, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,445. An ordinance authorizing a lease agreement with Mail Finance Incorporated for the lease of a postal scale and related equipment accessories for the Kenner Police Department.
Motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. Seeing no discussion, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 12,446, an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Crown Architectural Metal Company, LLC, to re-roof the Office of Motor Vehicles at 421 Williams Boulevard in accordance with bid number 18-6442 in an amount not to exceed $124,000 for the Department of General Services.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Seeing no discussion, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15D is a resolution approving change order number 1, final to the agreement with Barrier Construction Company, LLC, dated March 26, 2018, regarding the reconstruction of the Hollanday Street Airline Drive to railroad tracks, increasing the contract amount by $20,172.80, resulting in a total contract amount of $396,352.80, and accepting the project as substantially complete by the Department of Public Works.
Motion by Councilman Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. Seeing no discussion, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance amending Chapter 8, Article 2 of the Kenner Code of Ordinances to impose a fee for fire inspection services. 16B is an ordinance approving a general advertising sign in a HI Heavy Industrial Zoning District on Lot 1A, Square 87, Bainbridge Office and Industrial Park Subdivision. Item 16C is an ordinance approving a conditional use for a tire repair shop located on Lots 1 and 2, Square 4, Morningside Park Subdivision in Kenner, Louisiana, which property is zoned C2 General Commercial. Item 16D is an ordinance declaring a 2007 Ford Crown Victoria, VIN number 2FAFP71W67X104740 as surplus and authorizing its donation to Bogalusa Police Department. Item 16E is an ordinance declaring a 2007 Ford Crown Victoria VIN number 2FA FP71W8 7X104738 as surplus and authorizing its donation to the Bogalusa Police Department. Item 16F is an ordinance declaring a 2007 Crown Victoria VIN number 2FA FP71W37X104744 as surplus and authorizing its donation to the Bogalusa Police Department. Item 16G is an ordinance declaring a 2007 Ford Crown Victoria VIN number 2FA FP71WX 7X104725 as surplus and authorizing its donation to the Bogalusa Police Department. Item 16H is an ordinance approving an agreement with Han Enterprises Incorporated to provide Little Tykes Commercial BIBA playground signs at various parks in an amount not to exceed $10,000 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16I is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of Square 104, lots 8A, 6, 7, 17, and 18, University City Subdivision, Kenner, Louisiana, Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. Item 17 is reports from the council and/or special committees.
Don't really see anything, but I would like to just make mention, and sometimes we all don't like this made mention, but this Sunday will be Councilman Hayes' birthday, and he has asked us not to remember it as his birthday, just as another day. But anyway,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Item 18. Oh, you want to go?
Sorry,
Okay.
Greg.
I chimed in kind of late. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like, on last Saturday, the 20th, District 1, along with the City of Kenner, had our first annual Wellness Jamboree in District 1 in the Rivertown area in Heritage Park. I'd like to thank all of the vendors. I don't have a list here, but one of them was Mr. Benetti, who's here. We had Ochsner Blood Bank. We had a lot of health individuals to come out into Walgreens was there to give flu shots, and the community development, the food bank employees, a number of city employees were there to support not only District 1, but the entire city. I also would like to thank the police department, the fire department, the volunteer fire department, community development, recreation, all who came out and supported for the first time, because lots of time we have activities for other things, but the wellness that we need to take care of our bodies as it relates to diabetes, as it relates to blood pressure, as it relates to heart, issues. And it was a major cancer health wellness, which included all the cancers. Obviously, it was October, and we had to deal with breast cancer, which is representative by everyone wearing pink. But people have other cancers too. So I'd like to thank the Cancer Society for help sponsoring it, the administration, all of the city departments and the vendors that came out, and the people from District 1 that came out. So thank you again, and we look forward to doing it again next year, to making it better and to learn for some of the things that we can to make it better. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure. Just also want to thank the City Recreation Department for sponsoring the trunk or treat that took place since our last meeting and was very well attended. The participants, I'm not even sure, but I think it was well over 700, 800 at least participants. I know I ran out of stuff and I had to go buy more. So want to, again, thank the administration and recreation for that event. Everybody seemed to have a good time that was there. All right.
Item 18 is new business. Item 18A, at the request of Councilmember Brennan, a discussion by the fire chief on fire safety.
You want to lead off, Councilman? Okay. Councilman Brennan had called me last week and asked me about helping him put this on. And this was just, his thought was to have the fire chief come and just sort of give some fire safety tips in light of a fire that had taken place, I think, on the West Bank, where two or three young children had perished. And we're not sure if, perhaps they had or did not have proper protection with smoke detectors and whatever in there. But still, Chief, would you please just give some tips? And hey, I also want to thank, I noticed your fire department put up a video within the last few days too, relative to safety in a house for fire. So if you want to talk about that too.
Sure. So we started a public safety campaign we're starting to do some PSAs, started in October, and that's what you saw as far as the video. And the first video was on stove safety. So every month we're going to put out a new video, just safety tips on how to do certain things. This month in November with Turkey Month, we're going to do on how to not fry a turkey. Show the dangers of frying a turkey and how to do it properly and what happens if you don't do it properly. So that'll be coming out in November, hopefully soon. To address the smoke alarms, we currently have a program that we hand out and we install free smoke alarms to any citizen that applies. There's two ways to apply. You can call my office, or you can go on the Kenner website, and we have applications in English and Spanish to where if all you have to do is request, and we'll set up a time to where a truck will come out and install smoke alarms. If you go, we track it. It's called ZMaps. If you log into ZMaps and you look up smoke detectors in the city of Kenner, we actually log every smoke detector that's installed in the city. Currently, we've installed smoke detectors at 63 locations. We generally install 2 per location. So we're right around 120, 130 smoke alarms that we've installed so far. Just future safety tips, because we're going to start getting some cold fronts moving in. We generally see a lot of uptick in fires with space heaters. And with space heaters, you want to do, general rule of thumb is 3-foot rule. You don't want you smoke your space heater anywhere near 3 feet of anything. It'd be drapes, curtains, Christmas trees when they come along, anything like that.
I didn't hear it. What did you say?
Do y'all have any questions or?
Not even yourself.
Councilman Brennan?
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. And the other thing that, as Councilman Segura mentioned, the recent tragedy on the West Bank, but isn't it generally the time of year at daylight savings time, isn't that what's recommended for changing batteries and such in smoke detectors? So that's, or am I remembering that from a commercial or something, or is that?
That's
that a movie?
We used to do. We used to do that. There was a campaign of you change your smoke.
Well, I don't mean y'all
alarms.
do that. Just
well, I think it was a national campaign to where just to remind yourself to change your batteries on your smoke alarms on daylight savings 2 times a year. Now the new smoke alarms, we don't do that because they're 10-year smoke alarms, and they have the lithium-ion batteries, and they last 10 years. So you really don't have to change the batteries anymore. So 10 years, these things start ticking, and that you actually just throw them away and request a new one. We'll come out and put a new one in.
So you're insinuating I'm old by referring to batteries?
Absolutely not.
Correct? Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for everything you and your men and women do.
Thank you.
All right, well, no other comments. Thank you, Chief, and we look forward to more of your videos.
Item 18B, at the request of Councilmember Carroll and Councilmember Wilmot, a discussion on the new recreation registration fees.
Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'll open with some remarks and then close at the end as we normally do. But this particular subject that I will be speaking on now is something that I find dear to heart, and it is about the Recreation Department within the city of Kenner. Obviously, I've had many years on the city council, and coming in as a novice, there were a lot of things that I had to learn about procedures, about what it is to be a councilman, how do we have the meetings as a council president. All of those things were new to me, and I am still learning to a certain extent on how to do those things, how to perfect those things. But there are a couple of things, as I've learned on the council, which is more open to the entire city, that I'm becoming better also, because I grew up in South Kenner, so a lot of the knowledge that I've learned from 2, 3, 4, and 5 have come from my counterparts and from the people that I have met as I have been the council person from District 1. But two things that I came in with absolutely, positively information, knowledge, and love on, and that was the first thing, the people of District 1. I am a 5th generation person, family member from District 1. Grew up in South Kenner between Fillmore Street and Alliance and Airline in the River. Those are my people. Those are the people, like many of you, that I know. I know them because they knew me before I knew me. The second was the Recreation Department. Particularly at Morgan or Buddy Lawson, many of the men who, quite frankly, without their mentorship and without their love and support finances, I wonder where I would be today, or how my life would have not be as maintaining as I am right now for the Buddy Lawsons, for the Fred Johnsons, for the Gus Soniak, Sal Playa, all of these men that took an interest in me as a young boy to ensure that I become a better person, a better man, a better father. So those are the things that I know, that I have a good feel for the people who I represent. And as I become councilman and participating in recreation, I have been a player, I have been a coach, I have been in the Booster Club, I have worked at the Recreation Department as an employee. I have also worked in administration, which is across the board, particularly for Susan Park and Lincoln Manor that I now represent. So I have a good feel for this information. I have a resume that many of us have worked in recreation, but you know, I will put that resume up against anybody up here, anybody in administration. I have had all of those jobs within the City of Kenner Recreation Department, and I am versed on many things within the Recreation Department, particularly the people. As I became councilman, I had to be able to somewhat share that information and to use that information, because I stood up in front of God and country to say that I would represent the state, the city, the charter, all of which sometimes people that you love and you support have a hard time understanding, but as a responsible person, this is what I have to do. So before I close, and to close at the very end, I was saying most of that is to have information, to be able to share this information for the people who I not only work for in District 1, but at the entire city. For us as council people to be transparent with information, to share information with people that they find out about it in a timely manner, to be able to take it in, to process it, to ask questions to all of us if there is a certain situation. What I'm talking about, what I put this on today to talk about a particular letter that came out addressing fees for residents and non-residents, that did not happen. The information was not processed in a timely manner. And a lot of the information that will be shared after I get through talking the first time did not hit the light of day until after the 29th when the letter came out. Now, it wasn't shared with us as a council, or I should say me as an individual as a council. We never got an opportunity to listen, to comment, to chime in, because we all represent different areas, to be able to say, well, yeah, that is good, but what about this? That never happens, and that should never happen. We should always have the opportunity. We should all follow the charter. We should all follow the rules and ensure that we are doing the right thing. So that's why this all came about, my reason to talk, and I will listen to the administration, to my colleagues, and address other things after that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. And I feel as much as Councilman Carroll does as well. When I moved to Kenner many years ago, we moved in as a young family, struggling to try and get by. We actually, you know, paid our bills. We were timely with everything, as we should be. But something we really, really enjoyed as a family was getting together and going to the ballpark. My daughter playing sports all through her young years. And then eventually I started coaching, which was extremely nice. We got involved as families. We got together as families, met a lot of neighbors, people that we really cared about and today that we care about. In fact, that's how I met Councilman Carroll way back. He was a coach and I was a coach. We established relationships, good relationships, and those things go forward, and it does. It builds character into the players, the coaches. I just think it's something that we need to be very, very careful about when you're charging fees on our residents for play ball. I think that's, when it comes to rec sports, I think it's something that we should be extremely cautious about. Again, many families do get involved, and that's where they get involved. And it's something that we all take pride in and joy. I know some kids have maybe learning disabilities. They go to sports and it lifts up their egos. It gives them something to be prideful for, to fight for. It flips them around in school. Start doing better. It's all about families, and that's what Kenner is founded on. So I believe heavily in it. I'm extremely cautious about fees in general, but when it comes to rec ball, I'm extremely cautious. So that's all I have to say about it, but thank you, Mr. President.
Any, I don't see any lights lit up, so any other comments? Okay, Mr. Tapp, are you coming up for this? Oh, well. Well, yeah, I'll take it since I didn't see any more council members at the moment, but I'm sure they'll bring up some comments, so line up. All right. Come on up. Name and address.
My name is Greg Tapp. I live at 3720 West Loyola Drive in Kenner. I just want to say that when I moved to Kenner, one of the highlights of being in Kenner was that my children had the opportunity to have a coach, a place to go to play, and they learned a lot of things in this environment. The cost to me was really nothing. Kenner provided this, and what it did, it brought, as the councilman said, people together. You know, I can remember when the teams that were developed here in Kenner got to play in state, because my daughter was one of them in softball. Got to play in state because of her coach, which at that time was Denopolis. And Kenner was real big on creating good players. And there is families out there that struggle. They cannot afford to pay fees because if you're getting new families, young families, they're living from check to check. It's hard. And one of the prime things that we have in Kenner is a family environment. And that's what the Recreation Center does for us. It provides the family environment because the children have something to do. And as previously said, and I'm glad it was said by two of the councilmen, that what happens is children are developed when they are involved in sports. And the Recreation Center is the center for all that. That department is the one that brings it together. Don't deny children because their parents can't afford it of being able to participate in sports and to participate so that they can learn how to lead and to learn responsibility, learn teamwork, because that's a big thing today, teamwork. And I hope that we really look long and hard before we ever start considering paying a fee for a Kenner resident because they have children that they want to play on a Kenner facility. I think that would be very, very bad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Richard Brown, 824 Sessions Lane. I too have some great concerns about this fee. From a legal standpoint, it strikes me as a fee, the type fee of which the council should have to approve. Regardless of whether it's something that should require council approval, I think the council should weigh in on this. I echo the comments that Greg Teft made. It's my understanding and my impression that participating with the different ball leagues at the playgrounds, that fee is supposed to be covered. Those expenses are supposed to be paid out of the general fund from the tax revenue. And I think a lot of these parents also have to pay a fee to the Booster Club. So you're adding this fee on top of that. I've got concerns about it. I'm speaking as an individual here, not on behalf of Citizens for a Better Kenner. We have not looked into it yet, but probably will. I just want to urge this council and the mayor's office, the mayor himself, the recreation department, Chad Pitterfield, to please think twice about this. It concerns me. I just don't really like what I'm seeing. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ina Wesley, and I did not grow up in Kenner or South Kenner. I grew up in the Shrewsbury area. After I married into the Wesley family, I moved into the Kenner area on Centennial Road off of 3rd Street in Kenner. And then I had a son. He's now 37. Am I right? He's now 37 years old, and he grew up in the South Kenner area playing at Morgan Gym, which is now Buddy Lawson. And it was an opportunity for my son to be developed on that playground. And I appreciate the work of Councilman Carroll being out there at that time. He and his brothers were coaches out there, and they helped develop my son. In the city, in other major cities, we're having problems with our young boys staying out of trouble. And I think the playground, I know for my son, you can check his record. He hasn't been arrested. He hasn't been in jail. He is now a husband and a father, and he's a coach on the field at Buddy Lawson Gym. He's not just interested in coaching the boys, teaching them how to hike a football or run a touchdown, but he visits their schools and he makes sure that they're doing what they need to do in the classroom. And so that helps those young boys stay out of trouble. Now, if you want them to be running in the street, robbing old ladies, then take away their opportunity to be on the field playing ball. And you would take that away by imposing these fees on their parents. Some of the other spokesmen have already said that these people are having to decide on what they're going to pay. If they're going to pay their rent or if they're going to get groceries, and now a fee for their kid to play on the field, I think that's quite insensitive. And I would hope that you would consider this before you make it a law or a rule that these young boys and girls will not be able to be on the field unless they pay this fee. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Rajon Wesley, Senior. Excuse my dress, but I'm coming from practice with my boys. I'm now a resident of LaPlace, Louisiana, but I grew up, as my mother said, in Kenner, on Centennial. And then I grew up on Webster Street in Kenner also. And I'm here on behalf of families I know that are struggling. And like my mother said and others have said, whether it's $10, $5, or whatever it may be, they really can't pay it. They come to Kenner, residents and non-residents, you know, with joy in their hearts, saying, I'm so glad that Kenner Recreation is free because St. Charles Parish is charging such and such, or St. John's Parish is charging this, or New Orleans Parishes Church, and they can't afford it. And I have parents on the team now that who walked out there and were like, I came here because I've heard, I would say about my park, I heard about the camaraderie and the fellowship at Buddy Lawson, but then I heard that it was free to play. And I brought my son out here to play because I can't afford the $275 Orleans Parish is charging. And you know, like they say, that people are living check to check. And to charge Kenner residents for one is absurd to me. And then to charge non-residents a $50 fee. And not only do they get the charge, the city of Kenner Recreation has to decide where the child wants to play. And that's after I say a child that's been in our park for 3-4 years has already gained a brotherhood, fellowship with his players. Now when he comes up to sign next year, no, you can't play there. We're going to put you somewhere else. And as the guy spoke, Mr. President, I saw a kind of look on your face when he said that some booster clubs are charging. They charge the child to come and play, and then now to add another fee on top of that is just, it's not fair. So I would ask that y'all really think about that. Think about these parents who are really struggling, but they want their child to come to have a fellowship with young men so they can stay out of trouble and gain a brotherhood and a fellowship with men. So please think about that, and we can keep Kenner Recreation strong by not implying these fees and just letting these boys, let these young ladies come out and be kids to enjoy themselves playing football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, cheerleader, whatever it may be. Again, I've been a coach here for 15 years and never had a fee. And again, these people take pride in coming to the city of Kenner to play ball. So thank y'all very much.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 46 years. Right quick, first of all, I'm glad to see my introduction might be used as a motto. So there's no patent on it, so y'all feel free. Now, on the issue at hand, okay, I brought this up at the parish council meeting months ago. Citizens of Kenner pay $400,000 a year for Lafreniere Park. We need to bring that money back to the city of Kenner to take care of our recreation department, to take care of our parks that we have here in the city of Kenner, okay? Now, since then, Councilman Impastato did send $100,000 to our recreation department when Ken Maricoli was the director. But I want to see that $400,000 that we paying for Lafreniere Park come back to our city. We got 3 parks of our own to maintain, plus a recreation department. We don't need to be paying any more fees for recreation in this city when we sending all that money to Lafreniere Park. So I would like to see this council and this administration negotiate with the parish, and if you can't bring the whole $400,000 back here, at least try to bring $200,000 or $250,000, okay? So these people don't have to pay any fees for our recreation. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Walt Benetti, 7 Bistineau Court. I'd like to echo what Mr. Morello said. He said it probably better than I could, but I too have been saying that for years, the fact that Kenner residents should not continue to be paying for Lafreniere Park. We have our own parks to maintain. Like many Kenner residents, I was concerned and have been concerned by the decline in participation in Kenner recreation. I was encouraged by Mayor Zahn when he replaced the former recreation director with Mr. Pitfield, and encouraged and hopeful that Kenner Recreation would turn around. This fee, even though it is only $10, it's $10 per child per sport, it's still another burden. We should be encouraging families and encouraging children to participate in Kenner Recreation, not putting up additional obstacles. And this fee is only going to generate a small amount of money for the city of Kenner. So why even do it? Why add yet another burden to families in Kenner, especially an unnecessary burden? Thank you.
Anybody else from the audience? Thank you. Mayor, did you have any comments?
I guess I would have to yield back to Councilman Carroll because, I mean, I've heard the public, but the public didn't put it on the agenda. Councilman Carroll and Councilman Wilmot did. So I guess I'm trying to get a gist of, not to be disrespectful, but what's the question from the two council people? Because we had a presentation that we were working on since Monday on a major traffic issue with the new airport that I took off, didn't put on the agenda to actually address this $10 fee. So I'm kind of like, we were focused on that, and then we focused over the last couple of days on this, pulling away from a extremely major issue, traffic from the airport. So I guess I got to yield back to Councilman Carroll, if you don't mind. Can you, and then I can answer a lot of things. I mean, I just don't want to answer the public, then come back and answer. I'd just rather answer all at one time, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, I do have another councilman, or at least a couple, but Greg, do you want? Yeah, if I can answer that. Okay. Well, I don't want you to close now then. Okay. All right. Clerk, can you give his mic, because I have other councilmen in line that are.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to answer your question as it relates to, you know, what is it that myself and Councilman Wilmot is saying. And like I said in my opening statement, you know, we all have to follow rules. We all have to follow the charter. We all have to do things. And I can appreciate all of the many other things that you and your entire staff have to do. I'm not disputing that. But what I also say was transparency and information. That never happened. This letter came out about the fees information came out on a Monday or a Tuesday, and it was to be in effect today, November 1st, 2 days. So we, myself and council, as a council, we never had an opportunity to talk about some of the things, to share some of the things that, and I'm so proud of Ray Jean, actually, AKA Boom. That's what we call him, to be able to take the place of myself and other men who spent more time on the playground. Now it is a brotherhood that we look to them to do. So we have a perspective, we have information that if you don't talk to us about this, you will never be able to get it. Not blaming anyone, but that never happened. All the things his mother said, all of the things Mr. Maria, all of those things were never shared. It is our job as a council to live up to the aspects, to the hierarchy of all of the mayors, all of the council before us that maintain the city recreation department. For whatever it took, they made it work. They made it work for the citizens. They made it work for outside citizens. So if we don't get that opportunity to talk about it, and you may have some valid points, or you have valid points, but we need an opportunity to chime in and say, well, did we consider this? And that never happened. The conversation never happened. For us to discuss this before it came out, to put it out 2 days before it actually goes into effect, did not give us as a council an opportunity. And many of us have coached on the playground a long time, and we all bring different perspectives. That never happened. And that's my biggest concern is we didn't get a chance to talk about it. And then as a group say, okay, we can agree on this or don't agree on this. And like Mr. Ray Jean said, it's not about the money. It is about what we're going to offer to the children, and to be able to say, well, we're gonna let you play because you can pay for it, but sorry, you can't play, and you can blame the parent. It could be their fault. I don't know, but I don't think that's what the city of Kenner has set ourselves up as around the greater New Orleans. That we are the place, we are the destiny where people come and learn and become great young men to be better for the city and abroad. So that's my answer.
Do you want other council people go, or is it?
Huh?
Okay,
You'll yield.
that's fine. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate the question. Look, it's no secret that at one time the city of Kenner was a very wealthy city. You've heard me the new council members have heard me for almost the last 6 months tell you that while things are good in the city of Kenner, it could be better, and we're making it better. We're getting there. But in the past, and the council people that are left from the last council, you've heard me say the same thing. But you know that we've had malls that were in pretty good shape in District 4. We had recreation that was free throughout the city. We had health care that was free throughout the city. Our employees lost free health care, not because of you all, not because of the new council members, not because of the old council members, not because of this administration, but because things have changed. But the unfortunate part is that we have had some issues from past administrations, past councils. I'm not going to sit here and point the finger at anybody, but past government officials, not any of you all, not this administration, but they have married us to a 2030 plan that has basically mortgaged our future. We have no loss fund from other administrations, other councils that went through that. Those are problems. I don't want to sit here and air all of our dirty laundry, but I didn't put this on this agenda. Councilman Carroll and I did speak about this. We had spoken about how we could address it, but here we are. We're going to address it tonight. The only way to get through these things is to absolutely start asking the people of Kenner, if you like your own private police department, which does a great job, if you like your own private fire department, if you like your own private recreation department, we're going to ask you to at least pay for something. We're not asking for police and fire right now. Those are things we'll address later on. But for right now, we are absolutely asking, if you want to participate in a sport for a very, very minimal fee, it's $10. If you live outside the city boundaries, yes, absolutely, quote me, put it in the paper tomorrow morning. If you're not a Kenner resident, I as a Kenner resident, because I'm not immune to anything that we put out there, you're not immune to it. You have to pay it also if you have grandkids or kids in the program. You have to pay it also. As you pay it, as I would have had to pay it in the past, which I didn't, and maybe I should have been paid in the past when my kids were smaller. That keeps us whole. But as a Kenner taxpayer, just like the people behind me that live in the city of Kenner, and you all that obviously live in the city of Kenner, along with our chief, why should we be paying for those with our tax dollars, which we have no millage for recreation? There is no millage. This is not Jefferson Parish. There is no set millage for recreation. But our sales tax dollars and our other taxes, our millages, property millages, go toward helping every department. And recreation is one of those departments. So when we're paying for out-of-town residents, now that the people of the city of Kenner know this since it's on the agenda, I don't think that's probably a very popular thing. And me knowing that also, I don't think it's a very popular thing. So when the director of recreation comes to me and says, we have out-of-town residents that are getting our taxpayers' assets for free, and also the people that are playing should pay something, because in Jefferson Parish, if we're going to keep comparing ourselves to that, they have a millage, plus we have a councilman sitting in the audience that will probably back me up. I was one of those guys. You pay $25 per sport. This is 10. The recreation director will be up here in just a moment. This does not, he will explain, this does not go toward helping the city of Kenner recreation. This goes toward the safety of our kids. There's other issues too, but he will explain to you the consistent issues at sports, at team sports, that we need to hire some police details. This will barely cover. I could have asked for more. I could have not asked. I could have put more on, but I'm just saying $10 to the people of the city of Kenner. If you choose to play that sport, that $10 with those times those sports, times the people in those homes, that will somewhat cover the police detail. And those police officers don't make just regular time on the detail. You know this, Councilman Segura. If you're a city employee at a city event, you're making time and a half. So we're having to pay those police officers, not that I'm complaining, but by law, we have to pay those police officers time and a half. That's an issue. I will absolutely put a $10 fee on to protect our kids. That's the first thing. He'll state in a few moments the recent incidents that have happened. That's not my job to do that. The recreation director will do that. But we are charging anywhere from $10 to $145 for other activities that Recreation offers. Recreation offers 107 activities in the Recreation Department. That goes from dancing for young ladies, basically, maybe we have some boys doing that, dance team, probably more predominantly young ladies, from District 1 all the way to District 5, that also do that. Out of that 107, 95 of those activities in the city of Kenner Recreation Department pay a fee, which in history of the city of Kenner, since there's been a mayor and a city council and a chief of police, you all have never had, the council has never had a say in those fees. So all of a sudden now that things are changing in the city of Kenner, and Councilman, it's not the same city of Kenner 30 years ago. It's not the same city of Kenner that my family started a business here in the late 30s. It has changed. I get that. And because things change, safety changes too. And the safety has to be there from District 1 playgrounds all the way through every playground in the city of Kenner to your, Councilman Brennan, in District 5. And I will continue. That's not my job to be out there, but it's my job to make sure that the money is there to pay the Kenner Police Department. We will definitely do that. It's not that I have to ask this council. The council, in the past, has passed an ordinance that says the Parks and Recreation Department will assess a participation fee for non-city residents. Ordinances passed by the city of Kenner, I don't think we need a history lesson on the division of powers of the city of Kenner, but when you pass an ordinance, that gives the administration, me, the ability to do that. We did it. The second part was if the council did not think that we could do a fee for residents, the other part was every effort will be made to continue to keep all programs at low cost. So that council is giving the administration the ability to also do it to residents at $10. There's a $40 difference. You live in the city of Kenner, it's 10. You live outside the city of Kenner, you really want to play, it's 50. For those that cannot afford the $10, you can get a scholarship. We do this for the other 95, not sports, but activities throughout recreation. The scholarship allows you to get the $10. That's for our Kenner residents. These forms are with Mr. Mike Ince right now. He will be happy to put them where you sign in. We'll be happy to get these to every council office because it's not just those in District 1 that can't afford it. You know that. It's District 2, it's District 3, 4, and 5. It's citywide at larges. We'll give it to every council person. We'll make sure they're in my office. We are not depriving our children of the city of Kenner or our families of anything. We wouldn't do that. What I am making sure that they have is police protection. I will stand with that. I'll say it. I've dug my heels in on this one. I'm going to protect our kids. I'm going to yield now unless there's any questions for me directly, or I'll come, feel free to ask me. I'm going to let the Recreation Director address a few things that he knows particular. I think he wants to ask you for a favor, Councilman Segura, but I'm here to answer any more questions.
Anyone have any particular questions of the mayor at this moment? All right. Mr. Pitfield?
Thank you very much. And again, Councilman Carroll, I appreciate you saying recreation is near and dear to your heart because it is for me too. Not only did I grow up in recreation here in Kenner, but I decided to leave a 21-year career, uproot my family, relocate to the city of Kenner, and try to make a change in recreation. And that's exactly what I'm going to do while I hold this position. So, Council President, would you mind? I have 2 emails that I brought with me that I would like to read. I will tell you that the second one is very explicit. So pardon me, the viewing public and the public here, but I want to drive this point home because it drove the point home for me. So if you would allow me to please read this. I know Kenner TV is probably not going to like me because they're going to have to censor this, but this is exactly the response that I got from our residents, from our participants in the recreation department that forced me to meet with the mayor and the administration to make these decisions on having law enforcement present in all of our children's activities. It's a damn shame that that's where we are, but it is. We have to have the police to babysit the adults at our recreation facilities. We should all be appalled instead of having here talking about why do we need the police here to keep our children safe. So with your permission, I'd like to, the first one's a little bit more tame, the second one is more explicit.
Yes, that'll be fine.
The first email is, I'm a 9 and 10, and I'm going to use playground A, playground B. We're not going to section out playgrounds. I'm a 9 and 10 playground A football parent and very concerned over what is going on. There were threats made Saturday that if the 9 and 10 show up, it will be bad and they are out to hurt our kids. This is unacceptable, and what is it going to take for Kenner to shut the season down? The fact that you have KPD out there isn't going to matter to a group of parents who have no regard or respect for authority. This is not how kids' ball is supposed to be. I have a 20-year-old that played for Playground A and Playground C and also All-Stars for Kenner and never experienced this sort of behavior to this extent. It's all about bragging rights for Playground B, and it should not come at the expense of the kids who are out there who play hard for their team. Is Kenner going to wait to get a kid severely hurt and the parents sue the hell out of Kenner? Why put the kids and parents in that position? You need to shut the season down and be done, period. Prove this will not be tolerated and no one wins. Parents are worried about the safety of their kids, and it shouldn't be like this. Kenner needs to take a stand and shut it down now before it gets worse. The next email, Mr. Chad, I'm a parent at Playground A. Today for the 7 and 8, Playground A versus Playground B, we had to call Kenner Police Department because I was cheering on our team after they lost today. And a parent from Playground B was fussing back and forth with me as we proceeded out of the park. They tried to jump me and also run up on me and say, "Bitch, I will shoot you with a gun." The men was calling me a bitch, trying to get to me. This is sad in front of kids. I have a 7 and 8 and a 9 and 10 at on Playground A's team. Playground B is teaching kids to hate my son. 2 boys on Playground A's team called him a bitch, and his mom said to f*** him up. I don't know what's wrong with these people. This is a shame, and it should be appalling, as it was appalling to me. 2 examples in writing that I received, along with numerous phone calls, along with numerous in-person visits of parents who were upset and scared for the safety of their children. That's the reason why we're having declining numbers in Kenner Recreation. We only were 33 short of where we were in the past, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't act on this, if we don't get less, because parents are fearing for their safety. And I'm not here as just a recreation director. As I just told you, I uprooted my family. My children are now playing in recreation events. As a matter of fact, my child is now participating in a recreation event while I'm not there. My wife and kids are now at a recreation facility right now where I have to worry about if they're going to be safe because I know what's going on. Totally appalled. Totally appalled. And as the mayor said, if we want to be so well-versed and that we know everything, then we should know that 95 of the 107 programs are already receiving community assistance. We have it in place where we will give you financial assistance. It's also listed when you register on RecDesk. If you need financial assistance, contact the Community Development Department. It's all listed. I don't know what else to say, but I am appalled, and I'm not sure if, y'all are going to be the ones that want to take the heat and fight the mayor on making sure that our children are safe and my wife and my child is safe. I will be damned if I don't pay the $10. And as long as I hold this office of the Director of Recreation, I will push 110% to have law enforcement there. And if it means that we have to pay $10 and the out-of-town people have to pay $50, so be it. We didn't create this. This is a safety fee for the parents who can follow the rules, and it's a babysitting fee for those that can't. That's all I have right now. I'll answer any further questions if you'll have.
Mr. Pitfield, let me just before you get away in the mayor's comments. So you're indicating this $10 participation fee is more to recover the cost of providing police department employees at your sports events because of these issues?
It will not totally cover, but it is a nominal fee. I did my research. We didn't just throw this figure out of thin air. I contacted every recreation director around here. I have personal relationships with them in the 5 months that I've been here. I know what other recreation departments charge. We are well below everything else that they charge. Most other places do not even take outside residents. We're taking the outside residents, and we are by far the lowest charge for residents in recreation sports. So the $10 fee will not completely cover it, but it will help fill this unbudgeted expense that we have. I was faced with this on October 13th. Here it is November 1st. We went into action. I still need to find the funding of where I've been covering for law enforcement for the past 3 weeks. It's an unbudgeted line item that I now have on my plate, but the safety of the children and the safety of the citizens of Kenner that participate in recreation take precedent for me. I'll find that funds from somewhere else. But for the people that can't follow the rules and cause these issues, I can't continue to have my city employees intervening in fistfights, verbal disputes in the stands. My employees are there to direct and oversee youth sports. They're not there to mediate and referee. I have referees. I have the Kenner Officials Association, 110% behind. They are sometimes scared to leave the facilities over the calls that they make because they get jeering from fans. Who walks them out to make sure they're safe? Kenner Recreation employees. I'm not doing that to those guys. They don't have the training. They do not have the equipment, and that is not their job to make sure that the parents stay in line. That is a law enforcement job.
All right. I think I got my answer. You're saying then that whether it's the $50 fee for a non-resident, but also the $10 participation fee for a resident, is to help offset your expense because of these comments that you're receiving from participants at a sports, that the violence is there and you need law enforcement needs there to contain and make sure they're safe for everyone to bring their children to the playground.
That's correct.
All right. And you mentioned about trying to find other funds, and you know, we've had these discussions throughout the day, and I'm just questioning this. I saw on the news some weeks ago where some very generous business donated a $10,000 to the booster clubs. Is that not some funds that could be used to help offset this cost?
It would have been lovely, Councilman. We tried to reach out to them. They decided at first they were going to reach out to the booster clubs. Most of the booster clubs didn't have an active tax ID number that they could use. They were trying to use the city tax ID number to accept private donation. As of today, I received a notarized letter from a particular booster club that has issue because the group that donated the money, who initially was, you know, we were hoping it was going to come to the recreation department where we could spread it out amongst all of the playgrounds. They decided not to do that. Then they were going to do the booster clubs. I have a notarized letter from one booster club today that one in particular coach utilized the booster club's tax ID number and accepted the $1,000 gift card from Academy Sports, and they don't know where the $1,000 check went. He will not return their calls, he will not provide receipts, and he will not provide the equipment that was purchased for that. So to answer your question, would have been lovely to be able to utilize it for a part of this, but I don't know where those funds went.
All right, you mentioned $1,000, but that was, if I recall, a $10,000 donation.
Somehow it was split up amongst parks outside of us.
Okay. You're going to look into that, though, I guess, and try to...
We're going to try, but they haven't been cooperative with us thus far.
Wait, who's not cooperative?
The private donor. They're dealing directly with the individual parks.
They're given... Again, I'm just going by memory. I saw them hand one of these oversized checks for $10,000 to booster clubs.
That was a ceremonial check only.
Right.
They took it upon themselves to deal with individual, it was supposed to be booster clubs. They decided to deal with individual coaches. So they are only hitting 19 kids out of a park instead of the 100 or so the kids in the park. So I don't know how they handled that, but that is a private donor that is dealing directly with, it was supposed to be the booster clubs, but the booster clubs are raising issues because they didn't receive the funds, but they dealt with apparently individual coaches.
Okay, well, obviously, I understand the business is certainly free to do what they want with their money, but if they intended to give it to booster clubs for their 501c
That is not where it went.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's proper channels to get that looked into.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. Questions for Chad? I've got the board lit up, so I'm just trying to figure out who wants where.
Another question. Do we provide right now $4,000 to these booster clubs?
So each booster club is allotted by line item in our budget a $4,000 stipend that allows for the purchase of all of the equipment. I will tell you that the booster clubs currently come to us for every single thing except for nacho cheese. for one particular playground this year. We bought everything from pants, jerseys, helmets, shoulder pads, to the mouthpiece. The 99-cent mouthpiece we had to purchase because the Booster Club didn't have the funds to purchase it. Yes, sir.
I don't know how to give it.
Non-residents because of being a taxpayer in the city of Kenner, obviously. But the other problem that I have is if the recreation department is purchasing outfitting a football player, you're looking at probably $250 per person when you're dealing with helmets, shoulder pads, jerseys, pants, pads. Or you're not buying shoes, are you?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Okay. And what's the recovery of this equipment? Because I was very involved at Bertolino Playground a long time ago, mid-90s, and we bought all of our equipment because we were fortunate enough to have high school football games, and we had a lot of kids playing ball, so we really funded ourselves. So the booster clubs need to look at being more active and trying to make as much money as they can. And look, it's tough selling Snickers bars and popcorns. I understand that. But if the city of Kenner is purchasing equipment for teams, and you're telling me that they're not using the $4,000 that we give them, then I think that needs to be addressed. Number two, we have to get the equipment back that we buy. I mean, you cannot, well, football's not over yet.
I can tell you real quick, if you want a breakdown, I actually came prepared just to give everyone an idea of what we provide. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So just to give you an idea, for tackle football, probably our most expensive sport that we provide equipment for, currently at a zero fee, a helmet is $100, and we buy that in bulk, so we get a bulk rate discount. A football is $30. Will Brown football, $30. Football tees and flags, that totaled $720 for this year's football season. Shoulder pads, $45 each. Jerseys, $38. Football pants, $25. The pads for inside the pants, $12 each. $2 for a mouthpiece. Officials for the game, we need 4 officials for each game. That's $336 per football game. Recreation staff that's out there, whether it's a weekend or a weekday, they run, it's 8 employees that have between all of the age groups that are there, depending on because we generally try to combine most. That runs us $125 an hour to provide recreation staff to cover these games as well.
Okay. So we need to also focus on getting our equipment back that we're purchasing, because I know that you can use that for 2, 3, 4 years before helmets need to be and shoulder pads need to be refurbished. That's another issue. I don't think we're trying to knock any kids out of participating.
Absolutely not.
Because that's the problem when they're not active in sports. I think it grooms the kids, obviously. I have 3 that went through Kenner Recreation, and I coached football, basketball, and baseball for a long time. And I had an issue when my daughter was playing 9-10 softball. We won a city championship against one of the playgrounds, and they were so bent out of shape, they were going to take care of my new Suburban that was in the parking lot. So I had to walk out there and take care of that myself. But it's not something that's just popping up. It is stuff that's been going on. I think that we need to address the parent situation, that if you have parents that are causing issues, they have to be banned from the park. You're not trying to hurt the kid, but the child needs to come with someone else if they want to participate in the athletic programs. But if we have parents that are causing problems, they got to go. I mean, it's cut and dry. There's no way that people should feel unsafe in the gym, in the stands, wherever, when they're trying to watch their 6 and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds play ball. It's ridiculous. So, there's a lot of things that we have to look at. I am really aggravated about the non-residents playing, and I really believe that, as a taxpayer, you don't want to hurt that child, but if they're not paying and they come here and they play here, I think that's a problem.
I will tell you right now, as of last night, I have one football team that is not making it to the championship game on Saturday. They were provided with 13 brand new helmets at $100 a piece. 19 helmets at $100 a piece, $1,900. As of yesterday, the coach was able to recover 6. So I have $1,300 in football helmets that are out on the street right now that we can't get in touch with these people to get returned back to the recreation department.
Okay.
And then just to follow up on your comment as well about absolutely not excluding children, I'll tell you my statement was the same when I came here. I left a 21-year law enforcement career. My motivation to come here was I've dealt with kids on a law enforcement level, whether it was incarceration or whether it was delivering the message to the family that I, as a crime scene investigator, just worked their murder on the street. I have dealt with dead kids in a law enforcement setting. I'm not going to deal with these issues with safety in a recreation setting. I came here to make a difference, to give children something to do, to keep them off the street, to give them programs and activities to do, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to give it to them in a safe environment.
Okay, and the other point, the scholarship deal is available to all kids, and the process is to fill out an application when they register.
A single-page application. It's handled through our community development department.
Okay, and on the other programs that we have out there, do you know how much of that is funded with scholarships?
I don't know. I don't know that offhand. I don't have that information handy.
Okay, okay.
The scholarships are available to those who meet criteria for it, but application is available to anyone who needs financial assistance to see if you do, and Mike
Okay.
Gantz might have some of that information.
I mean, that's a way that they wouldn't have to pay the fee, obviously.
Mike Gantz is looking at it, Councilman. We're trying to get
Okay.
we didn't have that prepared, but
Okay, well, I'm so, yeah,
that's fine. No,
I'm
but
not
we
trying
can,
to
we
put
might be,
anybody
no,
in
we might be able to
jail,
get one for you before this discuss, I don't think this discussion's over with, so.
Okay.
Before it's over with.
Mike, you can get that number for me.
All right,
Do they want?
Brent?
Councilman, I think Ms. Foshee has an answer to Councilman Brannigan's question.
Okay.
We had combined funding for two different, we have camps and we have recreation programs. They're all part of the recreation system. But it looked like the combined funding was $12,000 and we only had applications for $2,800.
Okay.
So every application has this information on it, every, flyer. If you go on the website, it'll say contact community development. The phone number is on there. The application's not linked to the recreation department. I think we can probably do that. But basically what you do is pick up the phone, call community development. Community development tells you what they need. You bring it in. And we have people on scholarships in every program. We have dancers. The dance program costs $135 per girl.
Mm-hmm.
Gymnastics, the theater, and we have students who are scholarship students in each of those programs and treated just the same as everybody else. I mean, we're just happy to have them in the program. We're happy to have the ability to provide those funding for them. So there is no child who's going to be turned away from a program for their inability to pay.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to fill out the form to be able to get the scholarship.
Okay.
Finish? Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes, I actually have a couple of questions for Chad. So in terms of booster clubs, I am an active coach at Green Lawn Playground, and I've never, ever, or I've paid dues one time, and they don't charge anything to play sports. So what is the active, I don't know other parks, so I've only been to Green Lawn, but I have heard, everyone talks about recreation at other parks. There are some parks that charge fees per sport. There are some booster clubs that don't charge fees. And obviously I'm lucky enough to be at one that doesn't. So can you provide some information on the active booster clubs and what the general range is for booster clubs and how active they are?
So I will tell you that in the 5 months that I have been here, aside from other issues and other facility issues that we have addressed, one of the big things that I have done is I have started looking, and again, prior to my arrival here, the administration and the Office of Inspections here has started an investigation into booster clubs, and we are trying to determine exactly what booster clubs are doing. We know that they are selling nachos and drinks and popcorn, but when I tell you they come to me for the $2 mouthpiece, to me that is absurd. What is the Booster Club providing back to the city? And it's not the same at every location. It is my goal with the administration, we are looking to work on a centralized Booster Club system. I mean, our city is not this big to have 9 separate entities running in their own direction. I can tell you on August 1st, I sent a demand letter to all of the Booster Clubs with a very few simple demands. I wanted to know who your board is, because they hadn't reported to the city. They haven't reported to the city like they were supposed to in a good while. I wanted to know who's on your board, how many members you have in your Booster Club, what do you do for your facility? Do you just sell concessions? What do you do? Because I wanted to know. The last thing was I wanted to see a financial statement. What do you think all of them are having the heart attack about? The last one.
Well, have they provided any information?
Very limited from a few, not the full detail that we have asked for.
I mean, I know that a personal item like a mouthpiece that's only used, hopefully only used by one child, should be purchased by, I mean, I've always had to purchase my own mouthpieces, and 99 cents, you know, for the safety of my kid is 100% worth it, so.
Yes, ma'am.
So I also want to, I know that some, you know, I don't, this is not my time, or is this for? Are you still asking questions? Yes, I still have one more question. Okay, so I just want to clarify, I know that a lot of people spoke and said that, you know, they've been involved in the recreation department for many years, but in the past 15, 20, or even 10 years, you know, I've been involved since my 15-year-old was only 3 or 4, I guess. They don't have 3-year-old sports.
We do now.
And so just for this, I would say for the past, you know, 11 years. And so I've seen a decline in the recreation department. And I feel like that in the past, you know, over that range, that they haven't been paying anything, and maybe that's reflective. And do you think that that's reflective of the fact that we haven't had any fees or we haven't had anything to build up and dedicate to improvements in the recreation department?
So I will tell you that, yeah, possibly, especially when it comes to facility fees. You know, I mean, a lot of our facilities were outdated and neglected for many decades when I came here. I will challenge anyone to go look at any facility if you haven't seen in the last 6 months and tell me, you know, some major issues, because I can tell you, including myself personally, as a matter of fact, Councilman Brennan and yourself sent an email about some graffiti on a particular gazebo. Well, the lady came up to me at the trunk or treat and thanked me for going out there personally that afternoon and spray painting it myself, because that's what I'm going to do. We're going to get this stuff fixed. It's going to take a little bit of time. The recreation department was neglected for many years. In the past, we're trying to turn it over, but it's only been 5 months. But yes, you're right. And again, we saw 33 lower participants this year for tackle football. The total was in the 300 range, so not too bad, but yes. And the way that I say that, and I actually just came back, the city sent me to Indianapolis a couple weeks ago to the National Recreation and Parks Association. Where I come from in forensic science, we're not going to reinvent the wheel. I want to see what the best practices are, what is working, and what's working around the country. And if it's working for you, we're going to try to adopt it here. So I went to Indianapolis and spent a week in Indianapolis with over 8,000 people that do exactly what I do around the country. And one of the classes that I attended was called Decline. And it's a decline not happening in the city of Kenner. If anybody's on social media, Girard Playground, which took a lot of our Kenner people, complained this year because they weren't able to field 11 and 12, 13, 14-year-old football. It is not a Kenner problem. It is a society as a whole. Like I told someone, drive home at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. How many kids do you have to honk the horn for to move out the way because they're playing basketball in the street? They're not. They're not outside. It's just they're not outside. Technology is here. Everybody is on video games, iPads, Xboxes, PlayStations. It's cooler inside. Sometimes they may be smarter, right? But we are looking at ways to get those people and build some base fundamentals as well through recreation. You don't see the outdoor participation. As a kid on a Saturday morning, if I wasn't up and out of the house by 8, 9 o'clock, my mom was in there pushing me out. Get out. It was time to clean up the house. You don't see that anymore. You don't see outdoor participation. It's a shame. I have an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we start doing outdoor stuff now, but I saw it in them as well. If they could stay inside and play video games all day, they were happy. That's all they wanted to do. So again, I think it's a shift in society, technology advances, and, you know, again, why would you go outside in 110-degree heat when you can stay inside and it's 72?
Thank you.
Chad, thank you for your comments. I think from your passion and your delivery, we know you're sincere about trying to help here. I personally witnessed last Thursday night, I'm missing the game tonight, my 7-year-old grandson plays tackle football for Pontiff. Against Little Farms last Thursday night, somebody was asked to leave the field, who got on the field, a parent. Nobody escorted that person back to his car. If we had a law enforcement person there, that should have happened. Somebody is going to get hurt. There is no question about it. I'm working with Chad right now to try to put some new equipment at Galatas Gym at the Tot lot. This is not cheap equipment. We can't go to Home Depot and buy a slide. This is $50,000 worth of equipment to try to remodel a couple of pieces of equipment there at Galatas Playground. We can sit here. My child did play at Galatas, played it also at some of the playgrounds here, played at Girard. Things have changed. I was on the NORD board for quite a few years. We'd put equipment in, we'd come back. A couple of weeks later, the equipment was gone. What we know that happened I've been living in Kenner for 34 years now. Things have changed drastically. It's not the same game as it was. So, again, I appreciate what you're doing, Guy. Believe me, because, you know, trying to do something with the Erlang equipment right there at the walk-in park. We have to do something. We have to understand this is expensive business, but it's also, we have to keep people safe. The way we're going right now, we're not going to be keeping people safe for very much longer. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you. And just to echo exactly what you said, you're right. Costs have driven up. No longer can you go put up an A-frame swing set on a piece of grass and let people run. The requirements require us to put down a safety surface. We cannot install equipment now even on raw dirt. On Monday, as a matter of fact, we just finished $32,000 in renovations to the Rosemary Minor tot lot. I came up here and spoke a couple meetings ago about that was my passion. My first day here on the job, I was notified about the Rosemary Minor tot lot equipment was in bad shape. Went out there, we addressed it, went through the bid process, went and got it ordered. They installed the equipment last week. On Monday, they finished the repairs on the tot lot equipment as far as the safety surface. So just this past Monday, it was $32,000 just to fix the equipment. Not replace, not completely tear out and put new in. To replace a few broken pieces was $32,000 that was completed this week.
I tell you, one of the reasons I passed this, Louis Congemi built the playground right there in Wilson. It is a Cadillac playground. They have a millage, we don't. Big difference that people don't quite understand. Yes, I'm finished.
Thank you. Chad, one quick question. How many non-residents do we have participating? Do we have that number?
So I can tell you from the football season last year, with such short notice and me not being here for other seasons, I couldn't tell you. But I will tell you in our 7 and 8 tackle football league was 9. In our 9 and 10 football team was 11, and 5 in our 11 and 12-year-old tackle football.
Okay. And I have a question too then. After hearing various comments, you clarified that this $10 participation fee is to help offset your security costs now, which is a new expense which comes about with the social issues in today's world. But I've also heard through several comments about the sports for the boys, and it's not right to charge the boys to play. But then I'm hearing, and I know firsthand because I pay this bill, for my granddaughters to participate in the dance team. So is it a fact that we're saying it's okay to charge the girls, but not okay to charge the boys?
You're not going to hear that from my mouth because that's the reason why we're addressing it. 93% of our recreation programs have a fee, 7% do not.
Okay.
Councilman?
Ms. Lee, you had a comment on that?
It's not okay to
Agree.
treat those groups of people differently. You're charging for dance, you're charging for cheer, but then you're not the girls, because those are primarily girls' activities.
It can be either, but
Right.
predominantly
And
right now we know
then-
it's girls.
And then you charge nothing, so you could subject yourself to a Civil Rights 1983 action, an equal protection claim. So we need to get this, more equal and across the board with the charges. We have, 107 activities, 90-something are being charged, and the others are not. But yeah, treating two classes of people differently and unequally could subject you to a civil rights claim.
Okay, well, again, I do not think we as a city want to be in that predicament, so it's hard to say I'm in favor of a fee or whatever you want to call it, but obviously it needs to be something across the board that we are being fair to all of our participants. Just because the girls are not in a sport, they're in a different program, but it's not called a sport, it's called dancing. They should not be subjected to paying for a fee, whereas our sports are not being subjected. So,
Mr. Chairman, my daughter's a cheerleader, and let me tell you, that is a sport.
well, I know there's...
And just as I said, there's obviously fees associated with these competitive sports as well. I just read out what we pay for football, so there are fees in all of it.
And I understand there's various levels. I understand what he's talking about, cheer sports, which is very competitive around the country cheering. But I'm just talking about right here on our playground. Right here for the young ladies who walk in our parades here in the city or participate in our Lundi Gras. They're presenting themselves, and yet their parents, and I'm one of them, has to pay a substantial fee for them to participate. I think Councilman McKinney said he had another question.
Lots of them. Lots of them. So does cheerleading pay a fee to do cheerleading?
So currently, cheerleading falls under our competitive sports, but they will in the future. So the dance team, we do have a competitive cheer, tumbling, that falls under our leisure side currently. Okay. But actual cheerleading right now falls into one of the 7 in our competitive.
Okay. So I know you mentioned about some of the expensive equipment. Do any parks pay deposits on their equipment?
So that's handled at the booster club level. Again, different parks are doing different things that we need to work on getting a centralized system. But I am told that certain parks do take a deposit system, which I am a total fan of, because they're responsible to making sure we get that equipment back. And that stuff, as I just read the list out, is not cheap.
Right.
Wait, and Councilman, before you move on, then let me clarify that if I can. The comment made earlier where booster clubs charge you to participate, is that what that fee may be?
Again, I'm not 100% sure because the booster clubs right now, for lack of better terms, are all over the place, Councilman. We're working on that right now.
Okay, so the comment that a booster club charges and we shouldn't now charge is...
And again, what are they getting from their booster club for that charge? We have yet to see that.
Sure. Okay, Councilman Kennedy.
Okay, and then I also wanted to find out if so I understand you said something about safety. Is that, I mean, I was also aware of that some volunteer coaches have been kicked out of the games and not allowed to go back on the field because of threats and cursing in front of the children that are playing. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. And as a matter of fact, starting this season, I will have a mandatory meeting when we have the coaches. And again, it will be a mandatory meeting. If a coach doesn't make the mandatory meeting, they will not coach. We've had problems in the past where coaches decide to show up if they want to. If they do not show up, they will not coach. And they will be told, since you are interacting with children, you're held to a higher level, just like we all are. If you cannot handle, as an adult, handling with a referee either a bad call, a missed call, or what you feel it should be a different call, if it goes to the point of you being removed from the facility, As it stands right now, you get a 1-game suspension. Well, starting today, it's not that. If you can't control yourself in front of the children and give a positive role model, you get removed from a game, no problem. Come turn in your stuff on Monday morning because we don't want you.
And then also, are there expectations for parents and parents' behavior? I know I've seen that at some parks, and I've heard that a lot on Facebook saying, you know, we're the role models, we're the ones that the kids are emulating. Are there any, and I have in the past signed a contract to what the expected behavior is for a parent? Do we have anything like that, or will we have anything like that in the future?
We do currently have a parental code of conduct that I am looking to revise shortly, but there is one from the previous director that is in place at this time. The problem is 3 weeks ago, when I had a parent who was cursing in the stands with no law enforcement, it may have been 4 weeks ago, no law enforcement present, one of my recreation employees went to go address it with her and tell her she could not use that profanity here around children. While he was speaking to her, he got punched in the side of the face.
Yeah, I actually was at that game
Right.
too.
So we cannot handle the enforcement of them not following the rules. Law enforcement's going to have to handle that.
Thank you.
All your questions
Yes.
for the moment? All right. I think there's no other for anybody else, but I just, in light of a question that Councilwoman McKinney just brought up and you answered, I just want to get a clarity. Your coaches, you refer to them participating and going through your rules and coming to things. State of Louisiana has a law that all adults who are in a organized program with kids have to take a state-mandated training. Are all of our coaches doing that?
So our personnel department handles that. Anytime you decide to become a volunteer coach, you have to fill out a volunteer application. A background check is performed. We collect your fingerprints. And there's mandatory report training that have to go through as well, because they are considered mandatory reporters. If a child comes to practice and says, I got beat at home, there is no, do you call the police? You do call the police. They are now mandatory reporters. So, yes, our personnel department handles all of that information for us.
Well, I'm very much aware because on my board of directors for the Boy Scouts, I handle their youth protection, and I know their program. But again, are they taking that state-mandated training online for that purpose?
I'm not sure if it's online or they do some kind of in-person classes, but yes, we do keep up with what is required.
Okay. All right.
I apologize. I have one more question.
Are you sure?
Sure. So what are the fees in other comparable areas like in Jefferson Parish, New Orleans, St. Charles Parish, St. John Parish, and any other parishes that I know you mentioned Plaquemines Parish as well. Can you just highlight those, and then I won't ask you any more questions
The Jefferson Parish
in
currently.
the next 5 minutes?
Jefferson Parish currently, Cleary Playground received a letter from their athletics board is charging $25 for residents. They do charge a $50 waiver fee. So a Kenner resident can go to Jefferson Parish if we do not offer the program in Kenner. So for instance, flag football came around. We did not offer 13-year-old flag football, which I'll make the PSA now. We will next year. But if we do not offer the program in Kenner Recreation, you can pay a $50 fee and go play in Jefferson Parish if they offer it. St. Charles Parish charges $65, and if you're not a resident, bye-bye. They don't want you.
Is that per sport?
That is per sport. St. John Parish charges $15 per sport. If you're not a resident, sorry, we can't help you. Plaquemines Parish, I received earlier when I spoke to the director, was, I believe, $25 for residents per sport. They accept out of parish participants as well at a $75 fee.
So overall, we're still cheaper than anywhere in the area.
Absolutely.
All right, well then, Mr. Pitfield, I think that concludes any questions based on your comments. Mayor, you wanted to go next, or you? Oh, okay.
I think it was on from before. I didn't know if Councilman Carroll, Councilwoman had any more questions, because I do have to close on Mr. Pitfield, but I was waiting to see whatever else was asked to me.
Councilman Wilmot has a question for the chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief, I just wanted to know if they have any trends. Do you notice any trends since you've been with the department regarding violence in the playgrounds?
Trent, we do have some. It comes, I guess it's football, basketball tends to have the most problems. And I learned about this fee yesterday, so I don't want anyone to think this is a money grab for police, because you know how these things get turned around in social media where the police are getting paid to do something. So what I did yesterday, after getting the phone call that, you know, this, I guess, fee was going to be implemented, I ran all the addresses of our playgrounds in Kenner for this calendar year, and it came up with roughly 55 calls for services. And it's anywhere from, the first one I'm reading here is a child's broken wrist, somebody had asthma, one of them was a broken light, a few of them was a hit and runs. There's several of them, a referee was punched in the face. The latest one, I think earlier, 2 weeks ago at Musbertolino, the comments are a large fight in the middle of the football field. So I have nothing other than that. But as Chad probably made the point, a lot of these incidents aren't even reported to police. So I'm unaware of, you know, the comments that are made to him. We get involved when somebody dials 911 because there's a large incident. Somebody heckling from the crowd, you know, we're not going to know about that.
Do you see a trend, though, going from like 10 years back to now, it's increasing, or is it basically steady? I'm just curious if...
No, I wouldn't be able to even comment on if it's a trend from, you know, how it was. Well, I would still like to go to a drive-in shop at Swegman's and eat, you know, K&B ice cream. But things change, you know,
Sure.
so...
What about McKenzie King Cakes?
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah, so as far as the calls you've had, you said there's 55?
Yeah, 55 this year.
Any arrests?
I'm not sure. But most of them are for non-disturbances. Most of them are for, you know, accidents, injury, or, you know, some kind of damage.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Wait, Chief, don't turn your mic off. Just in follow-up, I just want to make clear, I don't think Councilman Wilmot meant it this way, but certainly your police does a great job for when they're called out and go handle things. But what we're kind of drilling down on here is things that take place during these events. And you don't assign a policeman to these events on your time, correct?
No.
So
They're
the
all
only way...
off-duty policemen.
I'm sorry?
These would be all off-duty.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. So the only way to truly get a policeman at these events for the duration of the event to handle anything would be through additional funding that the recreation city hires them to come do.
Yeah, that's correct. As I believe it was the mayor that pointed out, being that they're city employed, it's a city event, you know, you can't pay them a detail rate. They have to be paid overtime.
And your range from regular rate from a patrolman starting off in his first year to a captain is pretty broad.
Yes.
So we can't control who signs up for that overtime.
Yes, and we do at like all the high school football games, we do have Musbertolino. There are police officers working an off-duty detail there.
Right,
Because one, the
but they're
referees
paid by
require
those
it.
activities.
Yeah, the referee is required, and then the size of the crowd.
Okay. All right, so then clearly then, based upon your comments about the activities that you've got police reports on, and then comments from Mr. Pitfield and the administration on the need for a more police presence all the time through these sports activities, is the point that I think we're here in this fee, is to help offset that cost for the administration.
I'm going to support Chad Pitfield because he actually gets out most of the complaints. Right. If he says there's a problem and needs, you know, law enforcement or security there, you know, I will probably, not knowing any different, I'll back him and say, yes, it's needed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, Ms. Foshee, yes.
Just, it's hard to do the actual metrics to, you know, how many children sign up, but to try to give you just an amount we will collect and amount we will spend. For basketball, and using last year's numbers, projecting about the same, we would collect $6,600 and we would pay out $12,000 in police detail. And for football, which is a smaller sport, fewer participants, be about $2,800, and it would cost us $4,000. So this comes in somewhere about a little above half of what it's actually going to cost for these details. But so just in case anybody wanted to know how much we would be collecting, we're projecting, and how much we're going to end up spending on the police details.
Okay, thank you. That, at this point, clears the board from all questions, comments from councilmen other than Mr. Garrow. You want to close, but are we ready to close? Mayor, you said you wanted to?
I think the only thing that I have to close with is that, you know, the administration handles numerous things every day that they do not come to the council for, anywhere from administrative policy to making selections, appointing directors and assistant directors. We don't come here and ask that. By will of the ordinances that you all pass or by the people voting on the charter, that gives us the ability, myself, to do what we do. When I have to ask, I'm right here. We give you something that's on your agenda. We ask it. Had I had more time, besides doing this on Monday or Tuesday, and then dealing with the airport issues and numerous other issues that we have to deal with, as we've spent an hour probably in 15 minutes on something that's probably ridiculous at this point, because I think the administration has proven their point. I think we've given a pretty good argument, and I'm going to say again, safety of our kids and our residents. You were going to get an email explaining all this. So this wasn't, you know, Ben Zahn didn't wake up one morning and say, you know, how can I mess over the council? How can I make sure that the council doesn't know what's going on? You have to give me an opportunity. You legislate, we execute. We are the administrators. That's what we do. I know this probably sounds sarcastic, but when we have to come and ask, when I have to do the ask, I'm here. I include this council, like every other council that I've worked with, on everything that we do. We have been like that. I've sat in your seat. I've sat in Ricky Template's seat. Not his seat, but I've sat with Ricky Template from the parish. I've worked with 2 mayors and 2 parish presidents. I get what I have to do. I understand it. I appreciate that you all get what y'all have to do. Let's make sure that we keep that division of power separate so we can do as one, like I said, the day we got sworn in, let's move forward. You were going to get a breakdown of what's going on. You were going to get this presentation. You didn't get it because it wound up on the agenda. I think, unfortunately, we have aired some things that are going on with booster clubs that are under investigation right now that we weren't planning on saying at this point. I think we have aired to the public that we have non-taxpayers of the city of Kenner living off of our taxpayers. I think we have aired some things that probably need to be aired, but at the right time. Now we have discussed all of our business. You know, there's a thing called national security, well, there's city security too. And we keep the city security close until we need to express it. For the welfare and the great position that our residents have behind me to keep them safe. Police department keeps them safe, but we keeping them safe from the things that we're doing until we get it exposed, until our investigations are over with. Well, it's out there now. So here we are. I think you know why we did what we did. You were going to get a very, very small version of what happened tonight. You were going to get a small version explaining all this. I think you have the big version now. So is that where we want to be? Probably not, guys, but I mean, we're there now. I'm here for any more questions.
Okay, I don't see anybody have any questions. Councilman Carroll, I was going to let you close, but Councilwoman McKinney says she has something. So if you don't mind, I'm going to, yeah.
I said for Chad. I didn't say in general. I just want to say, you know, I am an active coach, and at Green Lawn, I coached flag football last season, or the season last week, and it just ended. And I think I realize the value of recreation. I think it's very important to get those kids out. But I also think that having ownership and commitment, a level of commitment by parents, and guardians is very important, because there were instances, you know, even in with the little kids, that the parents didn't show up or they didn't go to all the practices. And even a nominal fee of $10, if you have something at stake, you're more likely to show up and be actively involved in it. And I think, you know, I also made the parents, or asked the parents, didn't make them, asked the parents to provide drinks for the team each different game. They paid more than $10 to buy 11 drinks the week that they showed up. And I know that other parks do that because it's a lot easier and it builds teamwork. The importance of recreation in discipline for kids, teamwork. I read something on Facebook for someone saying, you know, I realize the importance of, I was going to complain about paying the money that I pay for sports, but my child gets so much more out of it. I think that what every child gains from playing recreation sports is more than $10. And I think it's not something that I take lightly, because I have 4 kids and 6 kids at home. And so I understand there's a financial burden, but it's also a commitment, and putting your money where your mouth is important, and building a commitment. So that's my feeling. And I also think that, for people who are out of the area of Kenner, they're welcome to play. The $50 is also not unreasonable. I know that I pay more than $50 in taxes, and so I think that that's reasonable. And so, thank you.
All right, Councilman Carroll to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd like to thank everyone for their comments and their concerns and their passion, particularly Mr. Chad. Thanks for the optics and thanks for your passion. But I want to apologize, too, for the vulgarity, because I don't think we as a council or administration should ever use profanity, ever. You can say it without, we understand, we're big boys and girls. So I apologize to our guests here today who had to endure that. Also, I'd like to say that the issue today that we were talking about, or that I put up to discuss, was the fees. And my concern that we as a council, we never had the opportunity. So the mayor can say that we were going to get it, or we are going to get it, but we put the fee in place before we had the conversation. It shouldn't work like that. We should have the conversation first, not later, because obviously there were many questions that we were asking up here. The chief had even said he just got the letter Tuesday. We didn't get it until then. It should never happen like that, because it gives us an opportunity to bring it back to our community to be able to share what is going on. And we come up with ideas to be able to solve the problem that we're dealing with. Listen, we're not the only community in the United States that are dealing with issues from the Recreation Department. Every state in the United States is dealing with this. Every state, like Chief Glazer, has to deal with some parents who act, not like adults. So we're not any different than anybody else. But you know what? For Mr. Pitfield, for ourselves, for the mayor, this is our job. We chose to be here. The people elected us. Now we have to fix the problem. And it will be fixed by having communications and talk about it. That's the point I'm trying to make. And I'm going to have to disagree with the mayor and Mr. Pitfield on 2 things. First, the mayor said that he's the person that says it. I disagree with that, because based on the charter here, and I'll read it, I'm not an attorney, but the charter isn't written for attorneys. It's written for the people who live in the city of Kenner. With my OLPH 8th grade education, I can interpret this, and most people can, with an 8th grade education. It wasn't written that tough. So in my interpretation of the charter, how it reads, and this is a fee that we're talking about, so if you endure me here, I will read it. Particular ordinance, proposed ordinance on any of the following specified subjects shall be introduced and adopted at a regular council meeting of the council, and shall not be adopted until at least 28 days after being introduced, nor until the proposed ordinance which shall have been published by caption in the official journal, which includes the levying of taxes or excise, increasing the rate of any tax or excise, imposing any license, requiring any permit, establishing any change for services rendered, or increasing the rate of any license, permit, or service charge. Any. So if this is a fee, it is inclusive in this. We are the body that should be determining, and however we feel about it, I get that. That may be the case. But no individual, not the mayor, not Mr. Pitfield, not anybody else should be that one person that represents the city of Kenner. The council, like you said, like the mayor said, but we should follow the charter. And not to follow the charter, we're not following the will of the people, because the charter is the will of the people. We have to follow this. And yes, the country is changing. We all have stories of when we were youth and the way things are now. But the good thing about this is, for the city of Kenner, our values haven't changed. It is still our values to be able to support the children of the city of Kenner. That's our values. Now, whatever else comes with that, we have to do our job and make sure that that is put into place. Whatever it is our job to meet collectively to talk about it, and that never happened. And we still have a lot of work to do to be able to do that. So if we were to just stick to the subject about the fees, if we would have talked about it before, a lot of this conversation we had about the police, I didn't know that this was the reason for the police. I didn't know. I didn't know about the certificate to sign up to get free money, the grant, or whatever you want. I didn't know about that. I'm more involved in the major sports, football, baseball, and basketball as a coach. Leisure services, obviously, is something that people pay. But everybody that participates in leisure services, if you are a boy or a girl, you pay those fees. If you are a part of the major football, baseball, and basketball sports, you don't pay, boy or girl. So if you're a part of leisure services, boy or girl, you pay. We're not discriminating against anybody. With this would change that. So I don't think we're discriminating against anybody for that. But I do believe we are not following the charter by the council not voting on this. As far as the fees for the leisure services, I get that, because we have to pay a professional to come out and to be able to teach this to our children, art, dance, singing, whatever else leisure services we do. But guess what? The volunteer coaches for baseball and football and basketball, they don't get paid. So are we going to start paying them? Are we going to treat them the same? Are we going to pay the volunteer coaches the many, many years that they put in their time? No, we don't, and we shouldn't have to, because they're out there like myself, like Councilman McKinney, like Councilman Brannigan. We put the time in because we care, but they don't get paid. Let's make it clear. The leisure services people, they get paid. And the parent is choosing to pay the ones that can afford to pay for these services. The one for the football, baseball, and basketball, it is strictly volunteer. Strictly volunteer. So, before I close, I'd just like to say that it is about the fees. It is something that I believe as a council, as a city, we have to put more input in this, in my opinion, before we put it into place. We just have to do that. Not just don't put it in place and then are we going to talk about it or we're going to get an email on it. No, it should have happened before that. And the second thing I want to correct, no disrespect to the mayor and Mr. Chad, is that I spoke to the coaches at Jesse Owens, at Lemon Gym. They pay a $3 fee per sport, not $25. The $25 may come from the booster club that they may ask, but they pay a $3 fee. If you want insurance, you pay an extra $1. So if we always trying to compare ourselves with Jefferson Parish, we are paying $3 per sport. $10 per sport, which is $30. They are paying $3 per sport, which is $10. So we far exceed what they're doing if we want to mile ourselves behind them. They do not pay $25. They pay $3 per sport. So could we be in that realm? Of course we could be. That would be better than 10. But we didn't talk about that. We didn't get the facts from the people to ensure that. That's what we didn't do. So Do we have a job to do? Yes, we have a job to do. Are we going to rely on the chief? Yes, we're going to rely on the chief. Are we going to rely on Mr. Pitfield? Yes, we are. To come up, are we going to rely on the mayor? Yes, to come up with things to address this. But my concern was it was done in a vacuum. It was not done for transparency. Listen, the ordinance that we voted on before, let me make this clear. I did not support this because I knew somewhere down the line this was going to cause us trouble by putting this into place. And it had caused not all of it, but some of the things that has affected the recreation department with the decline in children. This is part of it, in my opinion. Just let me say that, in my opinion. So we have to revisit this too. This doesn't stand alone as the gospel. We should revisit this also. So, you know, hey, listen, we disagree on this, how we do this, those things that I said. Would I do it again like this? Yes, I would do it again like this. If I don't get the information or the opportunity to be part of the conversation, I will do this every time so we can have the conversation like we have. Now I know more than I knew prior to Monday or Tuesday about this. So we have a big job ahead of us. I look forward to working with everybody, with the mayor, Mr. Pitfield, with the chief, with the families. But I don't want to be the person without working in, putting some work in to tell a child, because you don't have the money, you can't participate. It's good to hear about the grant. It's good to hear about the scholarship. But that information is not known throughout all the recreation department, maybe through leisure services, but not through the regular baseball, football, and basketball. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for all the conversations. We look forward to talking about it in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Roussel, I see you had your light on. Did you?
Yes. I just have a couple of comments for Councilman Carroll, since you brought up the charter and fees. Yeah, you're correct. The charter does require particular ordinances for those things that you cited and that are enumerated in there, like taxes and excise taxes, requiring any license, any permit, establishing charge for services rendered. This is a participation fee. This is, I understand fee, but this is voluntary, Councilman. It is not a mandate. It is not mandatory. It's not anything that like even similar to a tax or an excise fee. Basically, it's voluntary participation in these programs. We charge these fees already. The council did not approve them. It's my opinion, and I think my opinion is the one that counts as city attorney, that this does not violate the charter. This is not one of the enumerated items that are in Section 2.13 of the charter. A participation fee is not enumerated in there, and therefore it can be imposed administratively. Okay? Now, secondly, the ordinance that was adopted in 2015 by this council, and you were on the council, and you were the only vote against the legislation. But it specifically provides that the Parks and Recreation Department will assess a participation fee for non-city residents. This legislation
only.
Well, but Councilman, this legislation was drafted by a lawyer, Dominic Impastato, very, very sharp attorney, and words do matter. Okay, so when it says that it can be imposed for non-residents, and then in Section 3 says every effort will be made to continue to keep all programs low cost. I mean, basically, the council understood at that time that they didn't have the authority to impose participation fees. That is in the purview of the mayor as chief executive of the city. It doesn't violate the charter. It is clearly in line with this legislation from 2015, and I know you voted against it, but it was drafted by a lawyer, it was reviewed by lawyers, and words matter. So participation fees, voluntary, they're not mandatory. They're not like services or charges imposed for services rendered. You had on first reading tonight the fire inspection fee. That's a mandatory requirement that all commercial businesses in the city of Kenner get fire inspected annually. That's a mandatory across the board for all those businesses. This is a voluntary recreation program. It's not mandatory that your children participate in these programs. It's a participation fee, and whether it's a fee, whether it's a charge, it doesn't violate the charter and is clearly in line with this legislation this council approved, or a prior council approved in 2015.
Thank you, and I mean I closed before, so we're done talking. I'm just going to say that I respect your opinion, attorney. I am not an attorney. I made that perfectly clear.
We just disagree.
But we disagree. And that is why when you go into a courtroom, there's you on one side and there's another attorney, if I was an attorney, on the other side that would argue about what. No, it doesn't matter over my opinion, though. I can have an opinion.
This city. It's binding on the city, it's binding on this council. So my opinion is the one that matters. I'm not discounting your opinion. You obviously, everyone has an opinion on something, right?
Right.
But my opinion is the one that binds this city.
Mm-hmm. And again, this will be my last thing I'm saying. With my opinion, someone else could have an opinion that could disagree with your opinion or the administration and then sue the city. I'm not saying that's going to happen. And it's their opinion, and then someone else will decide. So we have opinions. We disagree on this one, and I'm just saying, based on what my understanding, my OLPH 8th grade education is, that is my opinion.
Right.
That is your opinion, and I think that's where we are. Right. This is just my opinion.
And right. And until challenged, and until someone challenges it, it's my opinion that binds this city. So let's, I guess, leave it at that.
Like we're gonna leave it at that, you know. But on the record, I've given my opinion on it. That's all. Thank you.
All right, Mayor, I see your light's on.
Yeah, and look, you closed. That's your right to do it.
If we closed, then we shouldn't be.
But I
on
need
the
to
charter,
defend
we shouldn't be.
though.
We should not have. If I closed, then I closed. We can't let people go back and forth.
Well, let me just make. I'm not addressing the issue, but let me just make this clear then, since I can't say everything if that's what the council president chooses to do.
Well, and let me clarify something, Mr. Carroll. This is not a vote issue taking place where we do follow that protocol. This was a discussion. So I'm just allowing the discussion. You referred to it as a closing. I honored that and said close. But it's still a discussion. It's not a vote to where when the final closure is done, then we vote.
All right. Okay. I disagree with that too, but go ahead.
We got
Well,
that.
this is not even relevant to the fee issue.
Right.
This is relevant to the comment made against Chad Pitfield. And Councilman Carroll, you and I have enjoyed a very, very, very good relationship. But I will tell this to each and every elected official in the city of Kenner, that I am not going to sit here, nor is my staff or the directors and the assistant directors of the city of Kenner, so that people of the city of Kenner can watch a closing comment on how the profanity was used by a director. That director stepped up here. He had the decency to ask you, Council President, whether or not he could say it. So if you're viewing this late, City Kenner resident, know that it was asked by Mr. Chad Pitfield. Can I read these emails, which were done by, or text messages, which were done by two individuals or one individual in the city of Kenner, and they're very profane. Do you mind if I read it the way it is? If you don't want me to do that, I won't. What was your answer, Council President?
My answer was yes, because I had asked this question earlier when I understood that he wanted to read this, was, one, would it be available to do it differently because of the viewing audience at home when we don't know who's going to be there to watch, a young kid or whatever. And I was assured that our K-76 will bleep out those words.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind is why I did allow it to be heard, because there's only adults in the audience. Adults, I don't see as a problem for those words.
And the children that watch it won't hear those words.
It
But I don't want a late viewer of the city of Kenner or the surrounding region to see a comment made by a councilman that acts like one of my directors, one of my assistant directors, or anybody who represents the city of Kenner doesn't have the decency to come before this body and ask that question. You've seen, look, you all have one employee each. I have numerous. I have numerous directors and assistant directors. You've seen the chief get very ticked off when somebody comes up here and accuses the police department of something. Y'all don't want to see me that pissed off, because it does piss me off. Now, you can bleep that out also. But to turn it around against a director, that doesn't sit well with me. I can make this very easy. No directors will come back. Is that what we want? I don't think so. So I don't appreciate it. Like I started off, we have a great relationship. Let's attempt to keep it that way.
Now, can I respond back, since we're going to go back and forth?
Sure.
Yes, we do have a great relationship, but I don't have to agree with everything that you said. I said that he used profanity, and for the citizens in this room, it should not have, in my opinion, even though there's no children here, maybe the president should not have allowed him to use the profanity. I'm saying as a professional, we should not stoop to that level. That's what I'm saying. Even though he did ask, he shouldn't have been allowed to use it, because now other people may come and say, well, can I do that? And then you're going to say no, now I hope. But that is my opinion based on the profanity being used in any setting that we as elected officials, as administration, that anybody that works for the mayor should use. That's the reason why I said that. Nothing personal. I look forward to working with you and Mr. Chad Pitfield, but I will stand on that, what I said, that we should never use that in this setting. Thank you.
Clerk? Oh.
To council on special subject matters.
Mr. Al Morel?
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 46 years. I want to say I've been making a beef at this podium for years about the lack of accountability on the part of these booster clubs activities. I'm glad to see there's finally going to be an investigation now into their activities. It's long overdue, and I welcome it, believe me. Now, I want to respond to some comments that was made in here at the last meeting. I want to direct this to the mayor. Mayor, you stated that there was no mechanism in place to track revenues, economic impact on the city of Kenner, on our city, from activities for events being held at public facilities. Okay, I disagree, Mayor. That's what we have a finance department for, and I believe that our finance department should be able to track our revenues coming into the city and our expenditures going out of the city. Now, next thing, I want to talk about an article in the Times-Picayune on October 21st concerning the airport that you was mentioning briefly earlier. Okay. First of all, Mayor, I agree with you, and I stand behind you 250%. I don't believe that the DOTD is negotiating in good faith over widening Loyola Drive when it comes to that fire station, okay? And I don't blame you for not agreeing to anything until we get what we entitled to. And I just don't believe that they're bargaining in good faith. And if there's a problem because there's no agreement been reached, it's not on the part of the city of Kenner or on you, it's on the part of the DOTD. Now, I want to also talk about that article. Professor at Loyola University, Mr. Schauberg, Christopher Schauberg, he stated that whole project is doomed. He painted a picture of doom and gloom, and he used one of the things he was basing on was the soil. Okay, so I hope that's not accurate. Okay, I mean $1.5 billion, a lot of money on a project to be doomed. Now, in closing, I want to pay tribute to our veterans with Veterans Day approaching. I want to say to all our veterans who's serving and who has served, thank you all for your service. God bless you and your families. God bless our military, and God bless the United States of America. And one more thing, let's keep those 11 people who were murdered in Pittsburgh simply because of what their faith is. Let's keep them in our prayers as well and their families. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Mr. Greg Teff. Mr. Walt Benetti.
Walt Benetti, 7 Bistineau Court. Speaking on behalf of Kenner United, Councilman Carroll alluded to it earlier, but We appreciate his invitation and allowing us to participate in the wellness fair. I'd also like to thank all the volunteers that came out to our fall cleanup day. We had a good crowd, and I'd like to thank our sponsors as well: the Treasure Chest, Pepsi, the Original Italian Pie of Kenner, Chick-fil-A of Kenner, Public Service Commissioner Eric Scrimmetta, and also Jefferson Parish School Board member Sandy DeNapolis-Bozarge, Benzon's Decorating, Danny Ream, and one other person that's escaping me. But I apologize for that. But thanks everyone for coming out. We picked up a lot of trash. I'd also like to mention quickly that on November 28th, Wednesday, November 28th, at the Crown Plaza Hotel, we will be holding a fundraiser. It's called Feed Kenner. All of the proceeds will be going to the Kenner Food Bank. So come on out. You can purchase tickets on Eventbrite. I will also be posting on Facebook and other opportunities as well. If you'd like tickets, you can email kennerunited@gmail.com. That's kennerunited@gmail.com. We're going to have about 12, maybe 15 area restaurants serving food. We're going to have a silent auction, and like I said, all of the proceeds will go to the Kenner Food Bank. So hopefully we can raise some money for a good cause. Thank you.
Pastor Jackie Brown Cochran.
Good evening. Pastor Jackie Brown Cockerham, 2610 Decatur Street, Apartment A. I'd just like to thank Mr. Muhammad for my tour. I forgot last time, and to thank Jesse for being being expeditiously with removal of that trash that was sitting at Decatur and 27th Street. He did it within a day. When I came back home the next day, it was gone. So I appreciate that. I'd also like to ask a question about the that 8-lane airport service road that's being constructed. Will we have a sound wall there like the ones off of Causeway and I-10? Because I'm hearing that there's going to be a 3 to 4 foot barricade. Anyone knows, please comment. And I'd like to say thank you to those coaches, male and female, who volunteer. My children went to Mus Bertolino Gym. Of course, they're older now. And I'd just like to ask, from my understanding, that all of the games are being played at Mus Bertolino. My understanding, okay? Now, do those opposing teams share, do their booster club share in the funds that are raised when they play at Mus Bertolino? How is it divided? And can they use that revenue to assist their players with those fees?
You, Pastor, are you pausing, or you want to finish up, and then we'll see if any questions are going to be answered?
Well, I have one other thing, and that's about Lafreniere Park from Mr. Morrell. He mentioned about the fees that we pay. I don't use Lafreniere Park. I don't know how many citizens in Kenner use Lafreniere Park, but I think it would be a good idea if we can avoid that amount of money coming off of, being on our water bill and bringing it into the city of Kenner. I don't know how it works. I would love to hear from someone how it works so that we could keep that revenue in the city. So.
All right. Your time's just about up. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
I'm done.
Thank you. And then I'll see if there's any answers to the questions.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
You too. Mr. Schreiner?
We go. To answer that question about the sound wall, yes, there will be a sound wall on either side of that road between the airport property and just about all the way to Veterans. It'll look very similar to what you see on either side of the interstate at the Bonneville overpass. It'd be the same color as that. That's the color that was matched. Yes.
All right, and then your other question on the Booster Club, I guess check with Mr. Chad because he's trying to sort out what these Booster Club, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Fosha, you want to answer?
I guess I'm weighing in a little too late. I should have spoken up sooner, but it's best that we not have much more discussion of this publicly because the booster clubs are under active investigation, some for very serious issues. So at this point, any comments made by the city can put that investigation at some peril. So we will, once complete, be able to come back to the public and to the council and share what's going on, what the findings are. Not all of the booster clubs are even booster clubs. Some of these organizations don't have any relationship with the city. They're just out there collecting money. Some of them are not-for-profits. So there's a variety of problems. They're not all bad. Some of them are doing a really good job. But right now, because we're so knee-deep, neck-deep, really, in this investigation with internal audit and some outside organizations, that we really need to not have much more conversation. So I would like to, that be the response for the pastor today, is that we're looking at it and we're going to make sure that everything is done right. It's just taking us a little while to get to the bottom of some of this.
Thank you. What now? I've still got more people want to talk. Richard Brown? And Mr. Ray John Wesley, I think, left. Okay. Councilwoman McKinney.
I just wanted to, I actually had an answer to the inquiry about the booster clubs. I was at the, not about the booster clubs, but about the recreation or about the raising the money for the food at the games. The people who were working there were recreation employees. So I believe the recreation department was the one that was getting the money, not any booster club.
Okay. Thank you. All right. No other persons wishing to speak. I'll entertain a motion to close. Meeting closed.